Okay.
And I hear you, Dallas. Yeah, I hear everybody.
Okay.
Enough people to start the, we got enough people to start the.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. I think we got enough people to start the public session. Good evening. Jerry, can we have a roll call vote, please? Can we have a roll call, please?
Gina Argento, Bogdan Bakarowski, Lisa Bamonte, Gina Barros,
Here.
Tion Brooks,
Here.
Eric Brusitis, Tom Burrows,
Here.
Iris Cabrera, Phil Caponegro,
Yeah.
Frank Carbone, Stephen Tressler,
Here.
Michael Chirichella,
Here.
Teresa Cinciata, Giovanni D'Amato,
Here.
Erin Drinkwater, Arthur Dibinowski,
Here.
T. Willis Elkins, Julia Amanda Foster, Chairperson Fuller,
Here.
Joel Goldstein, Joel Gross, Sonia Iglesia, Moisha Indig, Bozina Kaminsky, Avram Katz, William Klagsbald,
Here.
Ryan Coonan, Yoel Landau, Marie Lianza,
Here.
Abraham Leibovitz, Yoel Lowe, Trina McKeever,
Here.
Sante Michelli, Toby Moskowitz,
Here.
Martin Niederman, Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves, Mario Damarak, Janice Peterson, Dana Racklin,
Here.
Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer, Robert Solano,
Presente.
James Stewart, Del Teague, Tommy Torres, William Vega,
Here.
Maria Vieira, Stephen Weidberg, Simon Weiser,
Very high. Lisa Bamonte is present.
Jerry Bozina Kaminsky, I just signed in.
18 members answering the call.
Good afternoon, Jerry. Iris Cabrera is present.
Thank you, Jerry.
Here.
Thank you, Jerry. I'd like to ask everybody, if you're on your phone, I'd like you to mute yourself by pressing *6.
You had it on
If-
headphone.
If you're on computer,
Nope.
please mute yourself if you're speaking. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Gina will be on the chat tonight. And that's
So now
it.
what
The
do I
first
do?
item on the agenda is a presentation from the mayor's office in domestic gender bias violence. Miss Flora Baptiste.
I'm here. Hi.
What's
Hi,
your
how are you, Miss
here?
Baptiste?
Well, thank you.
Great.
If you don't mind me asking, how
What should I
long
do
do I
now?
have for this presentation, please? I don't want to go over time.
Maybe this isn't the right one, but then if I take that, my
We got, Dell, please mute yourself. We just got a notice from our second presenter that he's gonna be late. So let's go on with your presentation and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
evening, everyone. My name is Flor. I am the community coordinator from the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence. So my presentation, I'm going to be brief, but if anybody's interested in getting the full hour and a half presentation, I will leave my information so you can contact me. Once again, my name is Flor. Our office, which is the Mayor's Office to End Domestic and Gender-Based Violence, provides services for victims and survivors of domestic domestic violence, gender-based violence, um, gender-based violence, dating violence, cyberbullying, and also elder abuse.
Connection is bad.
Our services are provided right now due to COVID. All of our centers are closed, but we are operating remotely. For Brooklyn, we have what is called the Family Justice Center. The number is 718-250-5113. Once again, the number for the Brooklyn Family Justice Center is 718-250-5113. When it comes to domestic violence, the issue is sometimes people just think of domestic violence and they think of the physical abuse. They are looking sometimes for, they're looking for bruises, they're looking for the black eye, they're looking for what they can see with their eyes, and they're missing a lot of the signs when it comes to domestic violence. Because for us, the idea behind domestic violence, the definition of domestic violence is it's all about power and control. So domestic violence is about somebody using whatever method, whatever tactic they know that they can use to gain power and control over one person. So you have the person who is perpetrating the violence, who we call sometimes abusers. You have the abuser that is right here, and you have the victim that is right here, and that person who's perpetrating the violence is using all these methods and making sure that the person who's down here stays down, making sure that that person's world is getting smaller while his world or her world is getting bigger. Because when it comes to domestic violence also, it does not discriminate. Anybody can be a victim, anybody can be a survivor, just like anybody can also be a perpetrator of abuse. So the signs that sometimes people miss when it comes to domestic violence is a sign, for example, like financial violence, financial abuse. So right now we are living in a world where we are working remotely. We are maybe we are also not connecting with our friends and family members or our colleagues the way we used to. Definitely a lot of us are working from home, so we don't really have that human connection. So the financial abuse, maybe you that person is using isolation that way, because they have the advantage of you already not connecting with your social network. That person can also be using your own community against you, making threats saying that they're going to out you or they're going to tell your secret to your community, making sure that you feel ashamed of whatever secret maybe you told them, and that person could be using that against you to keep you in a relationship that you don't want to be in. It can also be stalking. It can also be technological abuse, where that person is asking you for your password, asking you, checking your messages online, changing your passwords. It can also be verbal abuse, where the person is using words that are really hurtful against you to make sure that you stay in a relationship that you don't want to be in. All of these forms that we see, or sometimes that people miss when it comes to domestic violence, there are also many reasons why people stay in a relationship that has abuse in it. So some of the reasons, some of the barriers for leaving can include, for example, love, hope, and loyalty. How can you love someone who is abusing you, you might ask? Remember that when you get into a relationship, you get into a relationship with someone, the root of that relationship is often love. So, and also when it comes to abuse, it goes in cycle. It does not just, you don't get abused all the time. There's a cycle of love, there's tension building, and there's the actual violence. So sometimes hoping that it gets back to the love in honeymoon period, like they call it, and hoping that it stays there can prevent somebody from leaving a relationship that is abusive. There could be other issues like immigration status. Maybe the person is an immigrant, doesn't have legal status, or maybe they don't know about the services, or maybe they have language barriers. There could be financial dependence, housing, which is a big issue, especially here in New York. It's very expensive here, and also domestic violence being the third leading cause of homelessness nationwide. There's also a lot of emotional connection. Maybe you're still connected to that person emotionally, or maybe you have children in common. There are many, many reasons why someone does not leave an abusive relationship. The impact of domestic violence also is something it's not an isolated incident. It's not just like, oh, it's not my problem, it's my neighbor's problem. Anybody can be a victim or a survivor of domestic violence, and it's also an issue that impacts all of us. You know, it causes taxpayers a lot of money. It causes a lot of issues in the family. 1 in 3 women are, sorry, there was a notice, I'm sorry. So 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic violence, and 1 in 4 men have also experienced domestic violence. And that creates a lot of different impacts when it comes to how it affects the body, how it affects the mind, physically and emotionally. It affects the mental health of the person who has experiencing or is experiencing domestic violence. Survivors of domestic violence experience PTSD, just like war veterans experience PTSD. And when it comes to the children, they go to probably go to school, they cannot focus, or they have behavior issues, or they are sleeping in school or missing school because maybe they have marks on their bodies too, and the parents are keeping them home. So the schools, the teachers don't know about what's happening at home. So this is a big issue that affects a lot of us. And sometimes oftentimes when I do this presentation as well, when we used to do it in person, we would survey people so we can get an understanding of what domestic violence, and see how they feel about sorry, my camera went off for just by itself, I'm sorry. So we would survey people before and after the presentation. We also was people that did not identify as a survivor of domestic violence before, and then after they would see, oh, maybe I'm in an abusive relationship right now, or maybe have been in one, because they so much just think it's just physical, or if I'm not being hit, I'm not a survivor, or I've not experienced abuse. If you or someone is experiencing domestic violence or has experienced domestic violence, we want you to know that we have services here. We have help. Our services are provided at our family justice centers. There are one in each borough, and the one in Brooklyn, the number, like I said before, is 718-250-5113. My name is Flor. I do this presentation committee. This presentation in its entirety is over an hour and a half, for just to leave time for questions and other audience participation. If anyone is interested in this presentation's entirety, please reach out to me at 917-588-6351. The office also provides workshops for teens. So we have a youth that work, and their workshop talks about healthy relationships, cyberbullying, teen dating violence, and other teen-related, and consent, and other teen-related topics. Their workshops can also be given to parents and staff, teens, libraries, schools, etc. Our workshop, the one I'm doing right now, is also available in Haitian Creole, French, English, Spanish, Bangla, and Arabic. That's it for me. Thank you very much. I'm here. I will be here until the end of the program. If anybody has questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, we'll take the questions now. Does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand or put any questions in the chat, Gina. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, In the chat, Ryan posted, excellent, a local resource for survival of domestic violence of sexual assault, the North Brooklyn Coalition. And also in the chat, for your information, this meeting is still not transparent to attendees. Attendees cannot see who is in attendance. Either the board members will not be able to see attendees that chat. Transparency was available for committee meetings last week. What is happening? Okay, that's from Katie. And also from Gina. She's asking Jerry to unmute her. Okay, that's from the chat.
Okay, I don't see any hands up. Is there any other questions?
I have a question. Iris Cabrera, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out this phone. I would like to know what are the resources that the people who go into the center receive when they looking to leave any abuse relationship? Because I know a lot of people are afraid to end the relationship because they, like you mentioned, housing is a big issue in New York City. So what are the resources that the people receive when they go to the center? If you can mention some of the resources. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. Thank you. I skim over that slide. I just didn't want to take too much time. The resources that, so how the one you would call, and over the phone you would have an assessment. That assessment would ask you a few questions. It's not too long. They'll ask you your name, what type of services you're looking for. They'll tell you about the services, just in case what you're looking for. Just in case you might be looking for something else, but didn't know we have that service. We'll let you know. And from the assessment, if you qualify for the services, you get assigned. A case manager will call you back. So the services include case management, they include advocacy around prostitution, we have attorneys for divorce, we have housing attorneys, we have counseling, that is, we have counseling for children, group counseling and individual counseling. We have emergency shelters, we can help you apply for permanent housing. We have interpretation, we have ESL classes. Sometimes we have financial counseling. We have also immigration attorneys. We can help you apply for public assistance. We can help you get an order of protection as well. And right now we are working with Northern LifeLock. They can help clients get that service as well. We can help you lock change if you live in a place where, let's say, you used to live with the person and now you're no longer living together and you want your locks changed. We help you with all of these services. These are the services that we have in general, but each center, depending on the work with a lot of city agencies and community-based organizations, you'll find that some centers have different services based on what the community-based organizations are in their borough.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Is there any other questions? Thank you so much, Ms. Baptiste. We really appreciate your presentation.
So much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Have a good evening. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the BSA for 114 Kingsland Avenue. I don't know if Mr. Plotnick is in yet. Did Mr. Plotnick come in yet?
I don't see him.
Okay. We only had 2 items on the agenda. Is there any comments on the liquor license? Is there any comments on the liquor license? Okay, we're gonna, rather than have everybody sit here and wait, we're gonna go into our regular board meeting. If Mr. Plotnick comes in, then we'll have to stop and let him give his presentation. Can we have a moment of silence, please? And let's dedicate our moment to silence to Sonia and her family. Thank you. Thank you. Can I have the roll call, please? Can I have the roll call, please?
Gina Argento, Bogdan Bakarowski,
Here.
Lisa Bamonte,
Here.
Tina Arrows,
Here, and in the chat, it says,
Tion Brooks,
Here.
Eric Berzadas,
Here.
Thomas Burrows,
Here.
Iris Cabrera, Phil Caponegro,
Yeah.
Frank Carbone, Stephen Chesler,
Here.
Michael Chirichella, Teresa Cinciata, Giovanni D'Amato, Aaron Drinkwater, Arthur Divinowski,
Here.
T. Willis Elkins,
Here.
Julia Amanda Foster, Chair Fuller,
Here.
Joel Goldstein, Joel Gross, Sonia Iglesia, Moisha Indig, Bozina Kaminsky,
Present.
Avram Katz, William Klagsbold,
Here.
Ryan Coonan, Yoel Landau,
Ryan here.
Marie Leanza,
Here.
Abraham Leibovitz, Yoel Lowe, Trina McKeever,
I'm here.
Sante Michelli,
Here.
Toby Moskowitz, Martin Needleman, Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves,
Here.
Mario Damarick,
I'm here.
Janice Peterson, Dana Racklin,
Here, Jerry.
Here.
Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer, Rob Solano,
Presente.
James Stewart,
I think so.
Del Teague,
Here.
Tommy Torres, William Vega, Maria Vieira, Stephen Weidberg,
Present,
Here.
Maria's present.
Stephen Weidberg,
Here.
Simon Weiser, .26 members.
Hi,
just-
Jerry, I was having issues with my connection. It's Gina Argento. I'm here.
Okay, 27 members answering the call, Madam Chair. You have enough for a quorum.
Thank you, Jerry. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Solano motion.
Bill Capernago, is there a second?
I second that. Iris Cabrera.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes?
Motions to approve minutes.
By whom?
Solano.
Solano, is there a second?
I
second Bozina
Kaminsky.
Rob Solano and Bozina Kaminsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Against? Abstentions? Motion carried. Now we're going to the public session. Each public speaker has 2 minutes to speak. There'll be no questions from board members. May I call the speakers, please?
Estiliano Ferron, we want to Michael Stegman,
He said he's unable to mute himself.
I'm trying to get him. Michael?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Very, very quickly, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Michael Steigman. I'm the operations manager for Down to Earth Farmers Markets. Our farmers market in McGolrick Park is officially reopened, taking place on Sundays in the center of McGolrick Park between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. every Sunday through December 19th. So just wanted to make a general announcement about the farmers market reopening.
Thank you.
Leslie Wright? Leslie? Leslie Wright? She's not answering the call. I'll move on to the next person. Katie.
Mayor Fuller, Director Wright prepared a written statement for tonight's meeting but she also wanted to speak. So if the board members at your convenience check your email, you will see a statement from Director Wright regarding the state park, which we will also enter for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
I see her in the list of attendees. Did we unmute her? She may be trying to speak. Like, I don't think attendees can unmute themselves, but I see her name in the list. Just.
No, she's been unmuted. She's not answering. Kate Nablatowski, please.
Hi. Thank you, Katie Nablatowski. CB1 must pass a motion tonight to require that there is community input as requested by 26 community organizations, mostly local, our elected officials. It is not enough to just go with what Parks is now requesting. There must be input from the community, comprehensive input. Right now, it's $14 million for new pathways and for installation of slabs. $14 million minus maybe $2 million for the building. They're paying, it's ridiculous. They're going to be getting rid of all of the cobblestones, our historic cobblestones. Anyway, there's a lot of really bad details about this. I'll also point out, we found out today that the RFP for the food concession is for both platforms. So the plan all along is let's make both platforms so that we can have a food concession and forget about eliminating the second platform. That was never on the agenda. The pathways were made for vehicle traffic. That's why they're black asphalt, even if it's porous. So it's making it into a big parking lot, food concession. That's what this is about. It's not about nature. It's not about parks. It's not about Martha P. Johnson. It's about accommodating a food concession for our park. And we must have input on this. Our elected officials wrote a letter saying that there needs to be community input, and we need to hold them to it also. We deserve it. We made this park, and it's got to be followed through on. It's not acceptable. Thank you.
Oh, there's two items on the chat. Can I share them now? Or Willis Elkins, 31, can we please share the letter with all attendees? And also,
Gina, there's no questions during public session. Thank you. Call the next speaker, please.
Kate York. Kate York?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Good night.
Hi, everyone. I am here to speak on behalf of supporting the resolution by the Parks Committee, which was decided in a very contentious meeting in which there was unanimous consensus that the Marsha P. Johnson State Park redesign must be halted immediately and opened to input from the family of Marsha P. Johnson, to the LGBTQ community, and from our local community. That our hard fought open space on the waterfront is to offer what slight remedy it can for the historic environmental injustice, and to be a remedy for our lack of open space, and not to be commodified to create a giant food court so that we can attract more tourists and, you know, partiers. I think that the RFP that was uncovered today to showing that there was an expansion of the Smorgasburg contract shows the direction that this park was meant to take. And I think we have stopped it in the nick of time. We all need to stay vigilant and absolutely refuse to entertain any moving forward until we have been able to do a forensic examination of what has happened in the park, what the intention was, and the community, the family of Marsha P. Johnson, and LGBTQ trans activists and other community members have had a chance to weigh in on this design. Thank you. Should I keep talking?
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Mitchell. Elizabeth?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I just want to clarify and underscore what has been said already. Basically, the community took the governor's statement in August at its heart, that it was a renaming of the park for someone to be able to revere as a community activist for the LGBTQ community, and that's Marsha P. Johnson. We were surprised when we discovered that the plan did not include real flowers and was supposed to have all of this plastic. So the whole community has been galvanized. There's 1,865 signatories to a petition asking for the park plan as conceived and under construction be stopped so that it can be reconceived for green space. We then had 26 organizations locally or who have a headquarters in the community to sign on as well, and that's a broad support. We only just discovered today that the RFP that's being offered is offering 4 years of a contract on those 2 slabs. It is going on to say that whoever gets that 4-year contract can continue it for another 5 years. This is a 9-year decision that is being made without community input. And I find that the entire thing has been basically an onion of insincerity, that this is not about supporting Marsha P. Johnson. This is not about green space, which we all have been cultivated to believe is important. This is instead just a way to put a private company in the position to make an enormous amount of money off of the community and to otherwise relegate space to a sort of wasteland of cement and plastic that the community cannot use. It breaks my heart to hear from all of the people in this community, including the people on the petition who have signed on in sincerity, wanting to give Marsha P. Johnson what she deserves and give the community what it needs so desperately. And it is up to this community board to hold the authorities to account on this. We are frustrated, and it is time, and we hope you will support the resolution that is coming from the Parks Committee and be vigilant to make sure that the community that has put so much work into that space going back decades now is not thwarted by a sudden incursion of commercial use. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Everyone, please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
Jane Poole?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, first, can we see if Leslie Wright is there? Because if she's there and not speaking, we may want to address if she was supposed to speak
You're
first. Is
losing
she
your
there?
2 minutes when we call
Okay,
out the
all
speakers.
right.
Excuse me, when we
I
call out the speakers, we'll check back.
Okay. Um, I just want to say I just find this all upsetting that our community, we fought, we're a community with legacy toxins, multiple Superfund sites, waste transfer stations, truck traffic. We fought on this land for against waste transfer stations, against the power plant nearby, and now fighting a plastic park. And now these concrete slabs, I don't want to just reiterate what everyone else is saying, but when does the fighting end? I mean, it's unbelievable that a community that's so underserved per capita for park space, a community with health issues can't get a healthy, beautiful park and honor Martha P. Johnson. What about moving the smorgasbord to under the K Park? I think we should look at that. It's a enormous paved state park, but in an area where we could possibly have green space. Let's have some green space. I think per capita, we're each at about green space. It's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Kastanja Maseki? Kastanja?
Hi, yes. Good evening. My name is Konstancja Malaszyńska, and I'm on the steering committee of the McGolrick Park Neighborhood Alliance. And I want to make 2 points on behalf of the group in support of halting the current plan for Marsha P. Johnson Park. We didn't express these points at the Parks Committee meeting last week after the family of Marsha and the AD of the organization she founded spoke, as all other concerns faded into the background at that point. But we submitted these in writing and would like them to be recorded. The first is regarding the process for park design. It is unfortunately not the first time that the state has pursued a design plan not developed with or supported by the community. It is actually the origin story of this very park, much awaited by the community in 2007 after years of delays, but developed, constructed, and opened with little to none community engagement. Our experience at McGolrick Park with NYC Parks and the playground restoration between 2014 and 18 contrasts sharply with this and shows the benefits of a proper community scoping where input is solicited, received, and informs the process, even if not all of it is incorporated. We know the State Park Authority can do this, as it did with the other recent local state park, the Under the Kościuszko Bridge Park, in whose early planning stages I was involved, where stakeholders were convened to hold a visioning session and then for a design unveil prior to going into construction, because the grant that funded the design phase required it. And there's a lesson in that. And the second point goes to a broader problem of accessibility. Out of 11 state and national parks found in the city and co-located with the city park, only our state park has a tall, insurmountable, unwelcoming wall and a fence. Others share as little as a sign that demarcates the territory. Some don't even have that. The natural world by itself creates few sharp, straight lines, and it continues to baffle local and visiting park goers that a blade of grass or a flower that begins in Bushwick Inlet Park blooms in another jurisdiction. Walls, fences, and distances between gates may not seem like an issue to most. To many, they're an insurmountable barrier that limits or prohibits their enjoyment of an open space. And we would like to advocate for a redesign that does away with these unnecessary artificial borders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Chairwoman Fuller, this is Leslie Wright. I finally managed to surpass my technological difficulties. I'm ready to speak whenever you call me.
Thank you. Can I have the next speaker, please? We'll come back to you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Kevin Lachera? Melissa Morales? I can't unmute. She's unmuted, but she's not speaking. Sarah Porter? Sarah?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sarah Porter, and I'm here speaking on my own behalf as a community resident for a long time and speaking for my family and the community. I've been involved with various community organizations for over many years and was involved with NAG back in the 90s when we were advocating get rid of the waste transfer stations to that were overtaking our waterfront and advocating for a state park, which was given or was anointed by the Governor Pataki in 2000, September 2000. I am looking at an old NAG rag that says September 2000. It's hard to understand that here we are in 2021, 21 years later, and we're having this crazy squabble with the state. At the time, in the early 2000s, we met with the state numerous, like ad nauseum, about design of the park, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of the main things that came up for community residents was having more green space, not having more buildings, not having more pathway, but having more green space. At that time, Community Ward 1 was 48 out of 56 or 58 community districts in terms of green space per square foot per person. And I'm sure it's even lower now, given that we have so many new residents in this area. We don't need more pathways, bigger pathways. Sure, we can have accessible pathways, absolutely. But we don't need more pathways. We don't need to necessarily take out all historic aspects and properties of the park in order to update the park. And we certainly don't need more buildings on the park site. Over time, working with state parks, and one of the things that they always said was that they would be interested in consolidating uses.
Please summarize.
Am I done? They're consolidating uses, including using the New York City Bushwick Inlet permit building for state park uses. We should look into that instead of making a whole new classroom space in our park when we have classroom space in BIP building. It's outrageous. It's so stupid.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Melissa Morales? She still can't be heard. I see Ursula Ferron is here. Let me see if I can get her on again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Elise Fuladera. I apologize. I was supposed to be on your community board meeting, and the Board of Standards and Appeals just finished.
Let's call up Leslie. And how many more speakers we got, Marie? We got Leslie.
And Leslie would be the last.
Okay, let's do Leslie, and we'll be finished with the public session. Then we'll let the presentation go then.
Apologies. Thank you so much.
Leslie?
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. Good evening to the members of the board and each and every one of you here tonight. I know there are quite a few people present, and I really appreciate that. As you may have heard, my name is Leslie Wright. I serve as the New York City Regional Director for the state parks. Technically, we've got the world's longest name, State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Last Thursday at the Community Board Parks Committee meeting, we as an agency listened and heard loud and clear the many passionate voices of Marsha P. Johnson's family and our North Brooklyn neighbors, very clearly demanding greater input on the design elements of the transformation currently taking place at our Williamsburg State Park. We heard the feedback, and we do realize, thanks to each and every one of you and each and every person who participated in that Parks Committee meeting, that the design outreach that we did was simply not enough, and we apologize for that. There are many voices in our neighborhood who did not believe and do not believe that they had a chance to be heard. And, you know, that's just our first and foremost priority to fix that immediately and going forward. So what are we going to do? First, last Friday, the morning after, the day after the Parks Committee meeting, we halted all construction on the site after hearing your concerns. Since halting that construction, we have redoubled our efforts to keep going with conversations and build on conversations with Marsha P. Johnson's family, with community, and we've reached out to community board members and intend to keep going with that communication. Each and every one of those conversations has been extremely valuable. Secondly, we've suspended entirely construction on the interpretive design elements of this project, and we'll keep them suspended until we can develop a new path forward with the community. This means no mural on the historical concrete platforms in the park and no floral interpretive elements in the Gantry Plaza area. We will jointly work with the community to identify a more appropriate commemorative design direction for this park, hand in hand with our neighbors in the community. We will begin to organize public design workshops that will be held in the state park starting as soon as April. Each workshop will last over the course of a day.
Please summarize, Leslie.
Thank you, allowing many voices and varying schedules to be accommodated. In the meantime, to get the park back up and open for public use, we're going to continue with the basic park infrastructure improvements that we've started so we can put the park back together and fully open in June. So we will complete the Park Education House that everyone has seen for years and approved with its small classroom and, importantly, public restrooms. We're going to shrink the footprint of the historic concrete platforms and use that new space as green space. We're going to resurface those concrete platforms so that people can use them for sports as they always do the drainage, add the irrigation, and fix the paths so they're fully accessible. Our open space is completely important to all of us. We share in that. I thank you. I thank you again for this opportunity this evening. And Chair Fuller, thank you for allowing me this time. I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Leslie. Did any of the speakers come on that wasn't able to come on before, Marie?
I'm checking. No, I don't see her.
Okay.
Ursula Ferrone, did she finish? Alice?
Pardon me?
Ursula Ferrone, she was speaking before Leslie spoke?
Yeah, she's finished. Her time was up.
Oh, okay, because she's raising her hand. Okay.
Her time was up. Okay, we'll go to the BSA. I think the presenters are here.
Hi, how are you?
Eric Placknett.
Hi, Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik. There's a lady named Haley who I don't know if she could get back in. She's the architect.
She's on.
Okay, great.
She just had to unmute herself.
Also, I don't know if I can share or someone else could share the presentation. I'm not sure.
Do you want to share the presentation?
Whatever you prefer is good with me. I can. Just need to open it.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to find you on here to see if I can do that. Oh, so you should be able to upload.
Okay. I am opening it. Apologies if I take a second. The BSA literally just finished. Okay. So okay,
Seconds
so
up.
it says share open system preferences. Maybe I'm not allowed to do it yet. Okay. Now maybe it will. Okay. Okay. Share. My system doesn't want to let me do it. It's like super locked. Is there a way you could share it? It's not letting me on WebEx share. Apologies. Or can Haley, does Haley have the ability? Or I could put a link in your chat. What would you prefer?
Where's Haley? I don't hear her.
She's muted. She's there, but she's muted.
She has to unmute herself. Haley.
Haley, do you have the ability to share if I send you link happening? Do you have the ability to share?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can hear me and I can't hear you. I have the same problem as you, Elise. I can't, the share button, I do have it, I think, down at the bottom, but my problem is I can't hear you on my computer. That's why I've been on the phone the whole time. So I'm going to go back to that.
Okay.
And so we don't
Can
have
you
the
share
crazy
your
back and forth.
screen? Because you are a presenter.
It doesn't allow us. It says that it's not allowing it. Is there a way I can email it to somebody or I can put it in the Would that be helpful? Could I put it in the chat and then everyone can click on it? Or somebody could share it from the chat?
You can try that, and in the meantime, I'll try to still find out why you can't share. It's on. You had the button.
It doesn't allow me. WebEx, I often have this problem. I'm sorry. We also emailed it to the community board. I don't know if they have it, but it doesn't even allow me to do the chat. It doesn't allow me in the chat either.
And you're a presenter, so I don't understand. All right, I'm going to mute.
Just go ahead with the narrative in the meantime.
Okay, it's not as fun, you know? Okay, so this is 114 Kingsland. We're asking for a variance at the Board of Standards and Appeals for a 4-story building. The building will rise to 45 feet tall, and as I'm sure you all know, because you live there, starting across the street was the Greenpoint Williamsburg rezoning. So the buildings across the street do rise to 45 feet tall, but unfortunately, right where we are was the cutoff, so we could not take advantage of that rezoning, and that is why we're here for a variance. So even though it's historically an M district, we fall. Even though even though the rezoning was across the street, this has historically been an M district, but with residential. So we are trying, and this lot has been empty for a really, really long time. There was a fire. So we want to put back residential in this spot, but we can't do that as of right. The only way we could do that is with a variance. What else can I? So I'm opening up my statement of facts. So this would be a 4-story building, 45 feet tall. It would have 5,210 square feet, 2.1 FAR. The proposed building would have 8 residential condominium units, 2 on each floor and a cellar. The premises has 2,393.95 square feet on the lot. And we are asking for, under a variance, you have to have 5 different findings. So first you have to find uniqueness. This site is 25 feet in width. It's an undersized lot and undeveloped. So it would be really, really almost impossible to develop a 25-foot wide lot with anything manufactured, especially because you often need loading berths or items like that when you are developing a manufacturing, and this is a narrow street. Also, the premises was historically developed with a residential use between 1887 and 1965. So that is condition, that is the first finding. And I really wish I could show you the bulk and everything in pictures. So sorry about that.
The presentation is up. Haley has the presentation on screen.
Oh, great. Haley, do you have, besides the photographs, do you have what you created? I made a presentation. You might not have that, but.
You still
Haley?
can't hear him.
Yeah, do you have the bulk that you did? Yeah. So I think this nicely shows the bulk. So the block we're on is an M district, but it was historically residential, and that's why there's these smaller residential spaces, but directly across the street was the rezoning. So you can see that it would fit contextually because across the street are very similarly sized buildings. So it would match those. And Haley has done different perspectives to show you that. Okay. So to speak to the character of the neighborhood, which is a finding, it is characterized by mostly residential. Behind it, it's an IBZ, but if you go in the front and you go forward, it's all been redeveloped residential. One of my best friends actually lives in a church that's on Monitor Street right there, and it was redeveloped into all residential properties. Okay, self-created hardship. This lot, the owner bought as a really tiny vacant lot because the residence had burned down. So they're stuck with something they can't really develop right now. And then we found that reasonable return, we would lose money because it would be almost impossible to build anything, again, as of right, that we could build there. This would be what we could build to get back the return for the lot. And then we can go into question and answers. I think often people have questions, and that is the best way to talk about a lot. And you can now see it, thank God.
I think Haley's trying to get your attention.
Yeah, thank you, Haley.
Okay, is there any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Steve Chesler.
Go ahead, Chester.
Thank you. You have plans to include affordable units in the building?
So no, because this is a very, very, very tiny situation. So if it was a ULURP, we would definitely do that, but this is just intended to be a 8-unit market rate residence with only 1 bedrooms or studios because it's so thin.
Haley, if you push *6, you should be able to unmute yourself on your phone. Is there any other questions?
I have a question, Del Teague.
Okay, Del.
Is this part of the IBZ district?
No, it starts right, the block behind it is where it begins. So this got caught in the middle.
Okay, thank you.
When was the fire when it burnt down?
Let me look. I think it was the 70s, but I want to give you.
So it didn't burn down while this owner owned it. It burnt down while it was being used as like an auto auto sales, auto lot?
No, it was historically residential. Now he just parks there because he can't do anything with it. So it's a parking lot in between two residences.
And he's been the owner the whole time?
No.
Okay.
So it was damaged in a fire in 1965 around.
And when did he purchase it?
I think, oh, I know. We answered those questions in that thing you sent us, the questionnaire. So let me look at the questionnaire and I will answer it. Questionnaire. I think it was 2008, but I want to check the questionnaire.
And as of right, he can build a 4-story. The BSA is to make it double to be 8 units?
No, he can only build a manufacturing use there.
Okay. Gotcha.
So not really worth it because it's too thin and you can't put in a loading berth. And those two homes, who would want to, personally, I wouldn't want to live with a manufacturing use in between two residences. I'd be pretty pissed off if someone came in and put in a manufacturing use.
But when the owner bought it, he knew what he was buying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that isn't part of the finding. The finding is you didn't create the
I don't
problem.
see any hands raised in the chat and I can't see people's face before they start talking.
Madam Chair, my hand raised.
Who is that?
Elkins.
And also Karen Nieves.
I'll be looking in the chat for hand raised. I don't see it in the chat. I mean, in the panel.
It's raised.
I guess I didn't get down that far.
Oh,
Go ahead.
he purchased the property, to answer an old question, in 2018.
Okay, I mean, just to follow up on Ryan's question, and I'm sure Karen will speak to this too. I don't understand this rationale that you sort of gave the impression that the only way to get his return on investment, because he didn't think he could build there, is to build residential. How is there any way that he purchased the land 2 years ago without knowing what the zoning was? I just feel like time and time again, we have people coming to the community board who've bought industrially or manufacturer zone properties looking for variance to cash in on a recent purchase. It'd be very different if you own the land for whatever, pre-rezoning. And it's this idea that you can't build manufacturing in a lot because it's narrow. I mean, Karen can speak to that. I just think it's a little ridiculous. And also, it's not the property owner's concern or issue what the local resident or the residents on either side think. I just feel like there's a reason that we have zoning in the city, and we can't just keep going through and doing these spot variances for residential because there's residential across the street. So if this is residential, then why not the property behind it? Why not the property behind that until the entire industrial zone is filled with condominiums? So I just don't understand why we are supposed to be granting, the opportunity for someone to make a killing on this property when they knew what the zoning was when they bought it.
So one is, yes, they do know what they buy when they buy it, but the hardship is looking at the land itself and not the intent of the owner. But so that's where that comes from. However, I just want to say that variances are made not for everything. It's when you find a property that has this unique special need, and this property's unique special need is not as its narrowness, but also its historical use as residential, and it's stuck between that IBZ and that rezoning. So this property, I think the board, if it were to approve, can put conditions and just really focus in on this property's specific problems. That's why it's coming. That's what variances are for. They're very far and few between. We don't come to you with many variances. It's only when we have these historic conditions with this tiny lot that we're stuck in this position. Otherwise, the lot just continues to be vacant with parked cars and undeveloped because it doesn't really work as a manufacturing lot in this location.
Karen?
Madam Chair. Okay.
Karen?
Okay. I understand. So prior to the residential was grandfathered in, And then they rezoned the land manufacturing. So as soon
No,
as,
it was manufacturing. Everything was, all of Williamsburg and Greenpoint was manufacturing.
correct, but the residential prior was grandfathered in. And then once the fire happened and there is no building, you cannot do residential. You would have to do manufacturing.
Correct.
I totally agree with Willis, because we do see this over and over again. You know exactly what you're buying. You're buying a M1 land. It doesn't matter if there's residential on either side. The other thing that you can do, and I haven't heard you mention, is how come the property owner didn't, as of right, you could still do commercial here. Or some kind of light manufacturing, artists, you know, something that's you know, noxious to residential. So I'm just wondering how come that wasn't looked into.
So it was, if Haley can hear me, she can show as of right plans. The problem often with an office building is you need a core, and that, because the lot's so tiny, the core takes up a huge amount of space. So the offices would be so tiny that once we did a financial analysis, we just didn't think it was a feasible or good use of the property.
Why buy it?
What? I didn't buy it, but we're just trying to develop land in a way that makes sense.
Rob Solano?
Just a narrative on the 2018 question, because that's the point of purchase. When you buy, or where your owner bought this land, there must have been some type of business plan, some type of vision for purchasing a lot. Could you speak to, in a BSA application, you have to speak to what was your goal? What were you trying to do at the point of purchase? And how are you now in a financial hardship that you have to come to us and ask for a rezoning change? 2018 is not that long ago, right? So that was a very recent person. You should know what the market is. You gave a narrative as if the owner owned it since the 1920s, and he went through this entire journey and got killed on the 2005 rezoning. So from 2018 to today, what is the journey of, I bought this land to do this, and now I've lost millions of dollars and I have to do this?
So we look at the premises as the premises, but I can read you our section about finances. We also have an entire economic analysis. I'm not going to read you like 50 pages because you wouldn't probably want that, but okay. So
more specific in my question, what was the math? If I purchased this lot for $2 million, I'm expecting my rent to be $5,000. Did he purchase the land with residential rents coming in, assuming that he was going to come to the community board and create hardship? Because if that's the case, then that's an assumption that is wrong, because there's tons of people here that are not game for that. So what was the math that created this?
So the
smart
math
purchase?
is, I wish I could show you my screen, and I hope that you can ask the community board for the economic analysis. And we can also get if you would like, if this goes to a full board, we can get the economic analysis consultant as well as the owner with us right now. But what they found was as of right, the project cost would be $1,242,865. And then the project value would only be $773,735. So that would be a loss of 22.6%. But if we did the proposed 4-story residential, the owner would make a profit gain of $26,047, which would be 0.4% value. And that would, yeah.
Del Teague?
Yes. So to follow up on what Rob brought up, it seems to me that the argument is that purchasers can come to our community. They can buy M1 land at speculative prices, assuming that they're going to be able to get a variance to do market rate residential. and assuming that there's nothing we can do about it, and they'll get a variance and not put in any affordable housing, and do it in an area that is supposed to give us some manufacturing. And I'm, you know, I think the community, many people in this community have just had enough of this. And also I'm wondering, what is the benefit to this community that makes it so that we should go along with the request for a variance, and we should support your request?
Well, one is we're more than happy to hear any suggestions you have on this building and come back to the owner and discuss it. But I think what it does is it helps the block, because right now it's sitting since 1965 as a parking lot, and no one wants to develop it because, and the owner was taking a gamble. He doesn't know if he'll get a variance. We write in our contract, you might not get a variance. The community board might not approve a variance. And I don't see many variances approved at the Board of Standards and Appeals. Personally, I think they often don't get approved. So I think it would be a benefit to the block, because it would no longer be used as a parking lot, which it can be used as because it's in a manufacturing district.
On the other hand, it will add to the just one more market rate building that's going to add to the outrageous increases in the rents in this neighborhood and the displacement of people who have a right to really be able to stay here.
And I would definitely put in your recommendation, either way you go, like how you feel about what you're looking for in this community, and the Board of Standards and Appeals will definitely take that into account and have a conversation with us about it.
Thank you. Santa Bocelli.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate and a little bit confirm what already some of my fellow members have said, but really, again, the economic analysis are your analysis. But personally, I've been advocating always, and this conversation about losing industrial space, mostly in reference to large space, which are really space that become not reachable for who need smaller industrial space. So what you really are proposing, once again, is to losing space we are constantly losing. And I believe, how long is the lot? It's 80 feet long. Can somebody please mute? Is the lot, how long is the lot? Is 80 feet
If
long?
Haley can get closer, yeah. It is 93, and it's kind of an awkwardly shaped lot. It's not completely square, but
sure. So, but you have 25 feet of width and 80, almost 90 feet. You over 2,000 square feet of space. As a currently in Williamsburg, I know very well the portion of Kingsland. Space can go very easily on a ground floor for about over $3 a square foot. They could generate very easily $100,000 a year in rent. I believe in 2018, it's a decent economic analysis. Maybe it's not so speculative, like wanting to turn it to residential, but you know, that's a terrible precedent.
Okay, Santos, what is your question? What's your question?
It wasn't question. It was just making an analysis that is still a profitable opportunity for somebody who bought a lot in 2018 to make $100,000 in rent after they develop it as an industrial space and maintaining the buffer.
This is questions and answers. Is there any other questions?
No.
Is there any other questions?
Yes.
This item, Chester, who's
Yeah,
that?
just Alexis Rodriguez is asking in the Q&A, will it be a condo or rentals, and how would it be cost effective?
I got Gina on the questions. I hadn't gotten to the chat yet. Trying to finish with the board members.
Oh, rentals. Does that answer the question, or? Okay.
Is there any other questions in the chat, Gina?
Wait, you said it was condo units, 8 condo
One sec, where's
units.
Steve this with Alex Rodriguez?
If I said condo, I didn't mean it. I thought I said dwelling. It's 8 units, they're rental. And I don't know if you got that questionnaire that we sent to the community board, but you should ask for it, and it goes through that, but they're rental.
Okay, is there any other questions in the chat, Gina, pertaining to this item? questions?
I'm looking for where you saw Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, he's all the way down by the attendees.
Attendees.
She answered the question.
Oh, we did. All right.
Okay. This item will be going to the Land Use Committee. So I would suggest that everybody that has other questions, look at the presentation that was sent to you and make sure that you have the proper people at the Land Use Committee to answer all the pertinent questions that people have. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, no problem. And I would be happy, by the way, if you want to send me anyone's questions, we'd be happy to answer in writing beforehand.
Okay, Dal, could you send an email to your committee and ask them if they have any questions and give them to you and you submit them before the meeting?
This way, hopefully people's questions can more easily be answered because I know these WebEx is sometimes difficult.
Right. Did you hear me, Dal?
Yes, I heard you, and I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea if they send the questions to you and then you forward them to the office. So that way they'll be prepared for the answers.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
The Land Use Committee is April 5th.
April 5th, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you remove your presentation, please?
Yeah, and I'm also Haley.
Okay, that concludes our public session. That concludes our public hearing part. Committee reports. Land use, landmarks, Dell.
Okay, thank you. We continued our discussion about zoning, and this time we focused on the IBZ business districts. And we had invited both council members or their representatives, Evergreen and Richard Barrick from the Borough President's office, and Richard Barrick came, Alexis Rodriguez from Councilmember Reynosa's office came, and Leah Archibald and Stephen Fabian came from Evergreen. So we talked about what the current industrial zoning allows, and that is that to an expansion of just one more level, one more floor up. And Leah explained to us that essentially all of these businesses have a need for more expansion, and they essentially have a need to expand upwards because most of the businesses own their own property. And they don't have the ability to expand horizontally, either because the properties alongside of them are not for sale, or because the prices at this point are just prohibitive. So the committee then asked, well, we understand the argument that they have to expand up, but why so high? Why so high with towers that that also accommodate commercial and office space? It's not just for industrial. The answer was that there are a number of factors. For instance, the high real estate taxes, the antiquated parking and loading regulations that are not compatible with business needs and hours, speculative land prices, particularly driven up by in part by the tendency of city planning to accept IBZ land use by entertainment venues and huge restaurant facilities. So we then talked about what can we possibly do with respect to some of these things. And we talked about the large entertainment venues that threaten to take over the industrial lands, the industrial properties. It seems that city planning is more willing to consider allowing these entertainment venues and then these large restaurants to take over those lands. However, essentially everyone at our meeting, including the representatives from Evergreen felt that we really need to preserve these plots for our industry and for our manufacturing. And so we all spoke of the need for us to work with Evergreen and to work with our council members and to work with the borough president to try to get city planning to agree with us and to not be so, prone to allowing these large industrial venues. Of course, it's, this then requires that essentially the majority of the people in the community board agree. I think that we discussed the fact that it seems to us that from prior discussions at the community board that the majority of the members of the community board would agree with this ideology. Then we and Alexis Rodriguez assured us that Council Member Reynoso would support us in helping to protect our industry and balance the needs with the need for reasonable density. So then I did raise the question, which I think is a threshold question, and I think I know the answer to it, but my question is, are we all, or at least the majority of the members of the community board in agreement that we do value continuing to have industry and the jobs, the good jobs that will go along with industry and the diversity that goes along with industry? Do we value them? I think the answer is yes, but of course we can have a bigger, broader discussion about this. And if we do, then we need to look to see what tools can we use to make it so the industries and the manufacturing businesses can have an expansion, but not have to have it in such density and in such height that it gets to the height that non-industrial residents find it's not tolerable. And we don't have too many tools at this point. Evergreen has tried to get city planning to provide more tools, more ways that industry can expand and not have to collect so much rent, and that they have to build these big towers with the higher rent paying commercial and office spaces. But so far, the administration, the city administration has not really been too open to this. So what do we have? We have the possibility of asking for the kind of special permit that 25 Kent got, but to have that forced on industries on a case-by-case, one-by-one basis, that is very difficult. It's expensive, and it's not really, it's fraught with insecurity. And we had been discussing asking the city to allow the 14 block area around 25 Kent and also the IBZ district to be allowed to have the ability to ask for the special permit, not on an case-by-case basis, but to expand it to those areas. So that's one situation. The other is we have to really have the city look at the parking regulations and the loading regulations, which are not necessarily in compliance with current needs. And we've had the people from city planning come to us a number of times and explain that the parking regulations for industries are very, very outdated because they were based on the idea that people are moving out to the suburbs and they're all going to come back with their cars, when in reality what they're finding is people are actually moving into the city, and they're either walking to work or using public transportation, biking to work, in that kind of a situation. The other tool that they currently have, which I think is in question, I don't know what the community board in general thinks about it, but it's the ability to ask for a floor area preference if they promise community space. I think that was something that we welcomed certainly at some point, I think, with open arms, but we've been finding over and over that the developers say that they will provide a community space. They get their floor area preference. They don't provide it. And the city is the first to admit that there is absolutely no way of enforcing. There's no agency that has the ability to do oversight. There is no provision for enforcing. And so we're finding that developers are getting the preference and then they are not giving us a community space. And so I think Evergreen has been discussing it, and we in our committee have been discussing whether the community wants to ask the city to forego that preference, or if not to forego it, is there some way we can enforce it? Can we demand, for instance, that the developers have to actually have tenants for the community space before they start filling up the other areas? You know, what can we do for enforcement, for oversight? And these are things to look at. These are ideas for us to discuss as a community board, ideas to discuss with Evergreen, with our council members, and with the borough president. Now, I will mention in my report, there's a link that Stephen Fabian from Evergreen gave us. And that will, if you go on that link, you can see details of what additional tools Evergreen recommended for the North Brooklyn IBZ. Also, Richard Barak reminded us to look at the borough president's recommendations for the Acme Fish and the 25 Kent applications. They discuss different tools and different ways of committing developers to live up to their promises. Richard also reminded us, or cautioned us actually, that we were going to be dealing with a lot of these questions soon, because there's an application that's coming down the pike for 307 Kent Avenue, and they will be seeking a preferential floor area for community space. So we need to look at the recommendations that the borough president made for Acme Fish, 25 Kent, and the recommendations and the conditions that we ourselves set up for Acme Fish to try to get to come up with some kind of an enforcement, or at least a binding agreement with the developers as to making promising to keep industrial space as industrial, and if they're going to have community space, what kind of enforcement can there be? And I think that's pretty much that. I mean, again, I think we also need to discuss the idea of expanding that special permit that was allowed for 25 Kent to other areas, to the 14 block area around 25 Kent and to the IBZ district. The second thing that I'm going to mention, I'm including it, it's landmarks, but it's just a very, very quick update. The landmark staff will have a Zoom meeting on March 18th, starting at 6:30, to share their what their parameters are and what their framework is for determining whether to approve a landmarks application. So the invitation will come from landmarks to CB1 members, and Trina and I did discuss with them that some people on our committees are not board members, so we want to make sure that those people, especially people on our land use and landmarks committees, can, even if they're not board members, that they can attend this Zoom meeting. So that's my report.
Thank you, Dale. SLA?
Hang on, short meeting, short agenda.
Very good, very good.
Well, there was only, under new liquor licenses, there were 5 applications and only one showed up. So we're recommending denial for 4 of the 5. And then the one that did come to us, we sent them out to do some more community outreach to their neighbors. And so we've recommended approval. That's item number 3, which is taking the former Mama Rosa's Pizza place and opening a new place. So anybody want to make a motion on that the new licenses?
Phil
Solano makes the motion.
Kobe Moskovitz seconds.
Do we need a roll call vote on that?
I don't think so, but
Jared?
there's usually people do vote against it, so.
What were the 2 items again, Tom, please?
Well, the only one we're voting to approve is number 3, which is LLC to be determined at 457 Graham Avenue. The other 4 were denials because they were all no-shows.
Okay. Let's just have a roll call vote. I don't know who's here and who isn't.
So the motion is to approve the 1 and deny the other 3.
Other 4.
All you had to do.
Well, the other, yeah. What's that noise back there?
Shall I proceed, Madam Chair?
Yes, I'm waiting for you.
Okay. Gina Argento,
Yes.
Bogdan Bakarowski, Lisa Bamonte,
Yes.
Gina Barros,
Yes.
Tion Brooks,
Yes.
Eric Brusadas,
Yes.
Tom Burrows,
Yes.
Iris Cabrera,
Yes.
Phil Caponegro,
Yes.
Frank Carbone,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Here.
How do you vote, Mr. Chesler?
So, no, I disconnected. My internet went out. So
We're working on the SLA committee report. How do you vote?
abstain.
Thank you. Michael Chirichella, Teresa Cinciata, Giovanni D'Amato,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater,
Yes.
Arthur Dubinowski, T. Willis Elkins,
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster.
She votes yes, Jabber. She sent me a text.
Okay, thank you. Joel Goldstein, Joel Gross, Sonia Iglesia, Moisha Indig, Bozina Kaminsky,
Yes.
Avram Katz, William Klagsbold, Brian Coonan,
Yep. Yes.
Yoel Landau, Marie Lianza,
Yes.
Abraham Leibovitz, Yoel Lowe, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Sante Michelli,
Abstain.
Toby Moskowitz,
Yes.
Martin Needleman,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Rabbi Needleman, Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Mario Domerick,
Yes.
Janice Peterson,
Yes.
Dana Racklin,
Yes.
Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer,
Yes.
Robert Solano,
Yes.
James Stewart, Del Teague,
Yes.
Tommy Torres, William Vega,
Yes.
Maria Vieira,
Yes.
Stephen Weidberg,
Yes.
Simon Weiser, 29 yes, 2 abstentions. Motion carries.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, there are 13 renewals. The lists were reviewed by the 9-0 and the 9-4 for any concerns or complaints, and the committee recommends approval of all the renewals.
Roll call vote. The motion, did anybody second it?
Phil Caponegro?
Okay, Phil, roll call vote, please, Jerry.
Be quiet, I hit unmute. I unmuted myself.
Gina Argento. Bogdan Bakarowski. Lisa Bamonte.
Yes.
Gina Barros.
Yes.
Tian Brooks.
Yes.
Eric Brazedas.
Yes.
Tom Burrows.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes.
Phil Caponegro.
Yes.
Frank Carbone.
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Michael Chiricello. Teresa Cinciata. Giovanni D'Amato.
Yes.
Aaron Drinkwater. Arthur Dubinowski.
Yes.
T. Willis Elkins.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster. Joel Goldstein.
Yes.
Joel Gross. That was Julia?
Yes.
Thank you. Joel Gross. Sonia Iglesia. Moisha Indig. Bozina Kaminsky.
Yes.
Avram Katz. William Klagsbold. Ryan Coonan. Yoel Landau. Ryan?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Yoel Landau. Marie Lianza.
Yes.
Abraham Leibovitz. Yoel Lowe. Peter McKeever.
Yes.
Sante Michelli.
Yes.
Toby Moskowitz.
Yes.
Martin Needleman.
No.
No. Rabbi Niederman. Karen Nieves.
Yes.
Mario Domrock.
Yes.
Janice Peterson.
Yes.
Dana Racklin.
Yes.
Bella Sable. Isaac Sofer.
Yes.
Robert Solano. James Stewart. Del Teague.
Yes.
Tommy Torres. William Vega.
Yes.
Maria Vieira.
Yes.
Stephen Weidberg.
Yes.
Simon Weiser. "29 yes, 1 no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Jerry.
The other 2 items are being postponed to our next meeting, which happens to be on March 23rd at 6:30 on WebEx. Please go through the list that was on the agenda tonight to see if there's any problems with any of the ones that are on there, and let me know before our meeting on March 23rd. Thank you. That's it for that one.
Thank you. Tom, do you want to do public safety and human
Sure,
services?
why not?
Huh?
Sure. Okay, we had a meeting of the Public Safety and Human Service Committee on March 2nd. We have a lot of areas to cover. One area is health and mental health services. We had invited Jessica Arocho, who was the Director of Community Relations at HHC Woodhull. However, she had a death in her family and was not able to come to the meeting. We had hoped to get an update on what Woodhull is up to and also on COVID situation within Board 1. The community board gets the representative on the health and HHC Woodhull's Community Advisory Board. Maria Vieira had done it in the past. We're still looking for someone who wishes to volunteer to be on that cab. We have questions about it. You can talk to Maria. Maria also promised to do a further pitch to try and convince somebody to be a part of that. Under public safety and quality of life, we had representatives from the 9-0, the 9-4, and PSA 3. PSA 3 is for our housing developments. Captain Vasquez attended and spoke on the 90th. If you read the report, the statistics and numbers are in there. One thing to note is that the 9-0 precinct has a nightlife meetings that they're having, and they promised to invite me to the next one. Their precinct council is always the second Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And they do it virtually. Faye spoke from the 9-4. Her statistics are in the report. Please read it. They're forming a North Brooklyn Safety Alliance along Manhattan Avenue. So businesses or people along Manhattan Avenue are interested should contact the 9-4. Their precinct council meetings are the first Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock. We raised the issue, and we had invited the sheriff to attend about enforcing social distancing and COVID regulations and the enforcement of the illegal parties. If there are observed COVID violations, social distancing violations, illegal parties, you need to call 311, and the office of the sheriff comes out and enforces it. It's the sheriff's office. Another item that we didn't get a chance to discuss, but if people have any ideas on it, let me know. The community input on the selection of precinct commanders. The mayor issued a statement that they're going to rely on the police precinct community councils. The borough president and community board chairs, some other elected officials are pushing for a more expansive advisory committee that would include members of the community board, community groups, as well as the police community council. So if people have opinions on that or information on that, get them to me through the board office. We didn't get a chance to really discuss that. The big topic was the concern regarding people who are without houses, otherwise known as the homeless to some people. We had a good representation from the Department of Homeless Services and the Department of Social Services. We were going to discuss statistics from Breaking Ground on the services that they had provided to people in our community without homes between our last meeting and this meeting. We also got a report on a new women's shelter that opened in our neighborhood, and we wanted to discuss the cleanup underneath the BQE. But the Friday prior to our meeting, there was a action incident cleanup that occurred at Meeker and Leonard that upset some of the people who are underneath the BQE. The advocates that are with the North Brooklyn Mutual Aid came to the meeting, and so we got statistics of service provision from Breaking Ground. We got a report from Georgina Bailey. The Women's Prison Association was operating a women's shelter in the Lower East Side next to that historic church that burned down, and then their building burned down, so they moved their women to the McCarran Hotel on McCarran Park. So we got a report on that. Yuri Sanchez is the Brooklyn Borough Director for the Department of Social Services, and she is the person that we reach out to when there are social service concerns. Shane Cox attended, who's the Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Homeless Service Street Team Solutions Unit. Casey Burke and Chris Tavolario are with Breaking Ground. We had a discussion back and forth about addressing the community concerns about what is happening under the BQE, but then there was advocate concerns about people who do not homes needing a place to live under the BQE. Erin Drinkwater, who happens to be a member of our community board, is also a deputy commissioner at DSS. Ed Cerna was there from the mayor's office. What we're doing going forward is there's going to be a meeting set up. Steve Levin is involved. Emily Gallagher, our assemblywoman, is involved. We want to get representatives of mutual aid. We want to have some people who are without houses, people from the community board, to discuss all of the different concerns that go into this and try and work out a workable solution that meets everyone's concerns as best as possible. And the community board will be involved, the mayor's office will be involved, the council member's office will be involved. Erin Drinkwater is helping to set up that meeting. So going forward, we're hoping to address it. Please read the report because I put a lot of the discussion in the report so you can get a flavor of what the concerns are, but I don't want to, read the whole thing to you all. Under new business, we're still looking for a member of the HHC Woodhull Community Advisory Board. And the concern was raised about the relaxing of regulations and health guidelines about large public events, which is sort of spearheaded by the Parks Department issuing an RFP to do a food festival in the Marsha P. Johnson Park when we're still supposed to be restricting large public outdoor events. It seems that things are moving ahead with not a lot of thought. So we do have some concerns about that. But please read the report. There's a lot more information in the written report, but I don't want to read the whole thing out. Like I said, Erin and Ed Cerna and others will be putting a meeting together either towards the end of this week or the beginning of next week to bring in the different community groups and interests to discuss addressing what's principally an issue under the BQE, but there are people with houses in other places, like on Rodney Street and a couple other sites throughout Community Board 1. And we would like to get breaking ground to work with mutual aid, to work with community so that we do a responsible way of addressing this rather than sanitation showing up and then just clearing up people's property and clearing them out, and where do they go? So that's my report.
Thank you, Tom. Ad hoc committee, Sante.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yeah, so I will start by saying, it was our second committee meeting, and the first things it was noticed that the meeting was open for all, was a meeting instead, this was set as a meeting instead of an event. I believe it went very nicely and very peacefully, and so it was nice, to have the open platform. It was a very long agenda. I attached it to the transcript, so you don't want to probably even read it. It's 37 pages, but it was a long agenda because the intention is going to be a running agenda, an ongoing agenda. It's a new committee, and we have taken into this task of not restructuring, but really building an outreach structure. So what are we going to do, and now we're going to become really this platform to have conversation and to do both outreach and to be able to do also in-reach to open conversation also within our community board. Something new that I want to say, and we jump on and off, and it was also a meeting where people left, some of our members left during the meeting, and because I had the other commitment, but there was always presence. I would say it was a long meeting too. I was contacted, actually originally Steve Chesler was contacted by a young woman. She's studying, she's working on a TC at the Parsons School of Strategic Design, and her name is Sofia Campione. And so I had a conversation where before she sent me an email, and I thought she was very nice, and she's doing a research about how to build a potential new model for community board and for community to communicate and to build something more participatory. But she also is offer, if we're open to make space for her, and she would offer labor and work, which we need to build material for our outreach. We've been talking about building a pamphlet, both digitally or a printed one. We've been talking about doing other research that could become valuable. And I was something a little bit unorthodox because I don't think something like that has happened. We talked, if there were Steve Chesler's question, did you contact the leadership of the board? And while the conversation continued, she explained what her intention was, and we I believe there was a general consensus that she could have brought very nice and fresh input and be helpful, and use our input to produce material that we may need, and we don't have as a board the resource, and maybe we don't have even the time to do certain things. And then other member of the board have even thought about the possibility and asked her, why don't you join the committee as a non-board member? It was something originally as a chair I thought was something that she didn't ask either. So we vote about having her collaborating with us, receiving our input while she's working on her thesis. So I don't know if it's something will require a vote for the full board, if we want to have her coming to our meeting and assist us through this process. Of course, she's free to apply for to become a committee member and on-board member of the committee, but that will be up to our chairperson to accept that. I also had asked her in case there was any conflict of interest. I believe personally, I don't think there is any, but to have some documentation from her professor from Parsons School, which is working and doing this research. So that's where the meeting went in regard to that. And then under the request of our chairperson, Chair Fuller, she had asked last time at our February 9th general meeting, when Barbara Williams for New York City Health and Hospital came to give a presentation at our last board meeting, then Chair Fuller asked me to bring the topic to our outreach committee. And as a matter of fact, not only we brought the topic, I decided to re-invite her to our committee meeting. So we had a substantial amount of time of our committee meeting went on really brainstorming. So it was a kind of an open conversation, last probably for over an hour. And I believe we touched about some very good point. And that's something that may at a certain point regard the full board, because I believe the experience is that Barbara Williams has been doing a lot of work on the community, and as she comes, she gives input, and then nobody has really anything to say within our boards either. So right now we have a 60% of the infection rate in our district. Of course, that's may have changed already, or at least when we had our meeting a week ago. And really what has come out, the difficulty she's having is really community communication. That's why she has come originally to our board. But if we have her just coming and telling us this story, nobody is interacting with that, as really has no effect. And one of the major issue is behavior. And I'm sorry if I'm taking longer time to talk about this. I know some of my fellow members will be more intolerant, but this is an opportunity to talk about something very, very critical for our community. It's about behavior. So when we spoke about zip code, without making any reference, those numbers change, and certain zip code, definitely they bump up all the time. They're always the result of behavior. And those behavior are because people wear masks for whatever belief, because people may area with a lot of bar and a lot of entertainment, and certain way of life, style of life bring to that. That's how we were informed. This is the statistic. I'm not saying that. Definitely are issues that require conversation and communication. And then when we have certain zip code and we have somebody like Barbara Williams coming, giving us this input, I believe one of the things that came in our conversation as a committee, we need to open a conversation within the community board. We need to have all the members that come from certain zip code really to start making comment why that happened. And we heard many things. We heard that people don't wear masks because they believe that the majority of their community has contracted COVID. But Barbara Williams said that that's not true. I made an additional research with the doctors, and that's not true. So if you have contracted COVID, you can still contract COVID asymptomatically. You actually can spread it. You interact with other community that are next to you. So those are issues. We need to talk, and if people is not informed, and if people continue to spread these mythologies, this is what Barbara Williams is asking us to open this communication. Of course, it's come out, and maybe the COVID issue is also a public safety issue, so it can be my decision. Also, I believe it was generally thought that we can make recommendation as a committee. This would be up to our chairperson, but definitely this is a conversation.
Sante, that issue comes up, that issue comes under Tom's committee, Public Health and Human Services. That issue comes under Tom's committee.
Okay, okay. So, but I'm saying this is what we've been talking about, and but it's an interlaced communication needs to happen. We can create an event itself, we can help. Maybe we should have one of the proposition that came out, maybe we should have a dedicated meeting, maybe chairperson, you want to call it, where all the board members, that because maybe COVID is something that needs to have a dedicated specific conversation. If we want to take and assist, Barbara Williams is working to make outreach. The first outreach is through us talking really and exchanging this information and help her to communicate in each community. She's having problem to delivering certain message and going to certain community. So that's what it was, a long conversation, a lot of brainstorming, but definitely was about really communicating within us. And so I don't know if later on other board member, other committee chair want to say something, but definitely behavior, parks could have competence even there, other behaviors in parks. So Barbara Williams is ready to send a van, is ready to go there and send PPE, literature, back communicating, but we can't do that alone. Committee needs to be part, member of the community where they have a certain grasp in the community needs to be part if we want to work on COVID. Therefore, we can help facilitate it and spread out some communication. So our responsibility as committees is helping to facilitate this communication, this conversation. Yes, then, you know, so this was one of the things, but you can read more if you want to there. We can talk later more. Then we went back to talk a little bit about social media. We opened the Twitter, and there's been also some other changes. We have the speaker form. It's a web form. The mail list is becoming a web form. So there's been some very valuable changes. We have digitalized more certain information that can be input directly to our website. And definitely the agenda, a lot of other things are listed there. Hopefully, you know, we can speed up the process and evolve even more. We spoke about also social media. One of the issues was how we're going to handle the password, and definitely we want to give this ability to our office. It's not our competence to handle that, but there's going to be a different way to share it. There's other way we can share without even need to have the password, and also what kind of content we are supposed to post on the social media. And I believe it was kind of acknowledged that we're going to publicize that information. We're not going to follow anybody except our public officials. It's not about to make following other entity or other private person that, you know, they don't represent us, you know, other can follow us. Yeah, so we spoke for a long time about the COVID mostly, and those were the things that we have really touched at the meeting. So I don't want to keep you any longer on that, but I want to give the word. I don't know if because Steve Chesler have some comment want to make, and also Janice Peterson may be complimentary to what I've said. I know they had a lot to say about that too. Not to take too much time, if I want to have a couple minutes.
Santa, I'd like to move on with committee reports, please.
Okay. Then good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Transportation.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So we met last Tuesday. Sorry, I just lost my report. Okay. So the first item on the agenda, those of you will remember back in the fall of 19, we heard from Flixbus. We then heard it in committee, and we had gone through a number of bus stops that they wanted to use for Eastern Coach, their bus partner, to offer discount bus rides serving the Northeast Corridor down to DC. Based on the committee meeting from last year, Flix had chosen the bus stop at a combined bus stop at Rodney and Ainsley Street near the exit to the BQE. That was the committee's preference. And with respect to that, that was the one that was chosen by Flixbus. They subsequently sent a letter to DOT bus stops, and this was a procedural item to just to approve the joint use of the bus stop. There were concerns about garbage and littering from the private bus company. Mr. Zajikowski, who represented Flixbus for the meeting, mentioned that there are receptacles on the bus, but there is still a concern that people waiting for the bus may increase the litter. People familiar with that location know that that's a problem. So we'll be looking at that. There was also concern about pricing. The pricing has gone up. It's still around $16 to ride, but that after COVID, they're going to review the pricing and see if it can be reduced. And then lastly, there are, public safety, traffic safety issues with the intersection of Rodney and Metropolitan, where it becomes Meeker. Kevin Lucera, member of the public, asked if Flix would be willing to partner more with DOT to help with safety improvements there. Subsequent to our meeting, he sent out a letter to DOT, Mr. Zajikowski and myself and others. And so we'll be looking at safety improvements. Flix wants to be a good partner in the community. We'll hold them to that. And but ultimately, the committee voted to approve the joint use of MTA bus, the B42 bus stop by Eastern Coach at Rodney Street and Ainsley Street. I will actually make the motion to approve the committee's recommendation with notice to DOT by both mail and by electronic mail, just because DOT is not, they're not receiving mail because of COVID, et cetera. So this has been holding for a while, and we'd just like to expedite the process for DOT. So that is my motion.
I'll second it.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Motion's been made and second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Gina Argento, Alden Bakarowski, Lisa Bamonte.
Yes.
I hardly hear you, Jerry.
Hi,
Okay.
Jerry. This is Gina Argento.
How do you vote, Gina? Hello? Eric, you just want to repeat the motion for those people that just signed in, please?
Sure. The committee unanimously voted to approve the joint use of MTA B42 bus stop by Eastern Coach at Rodney Street and Ainsley Street, with communication to be sent to DOT via mail and electronic mail.
Gina Argento,
Yes.
Bogdan Bakarowski, Lisa Bamonte,
Yes.
Gina Barros,
Yes.
Tion Brooks,
Yes.
Eric Brusadas,
Yes.
Tom Burrows,
Yes.
Iris Cabrera,
Yes.
Phil Caponegro,
Yes.
Frank Carbone,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Michael Chirichella, Teresa Cinciata, Giovanni D'Amato,
No.
Aaron Drinkwater,
Yes.
Arthur Dubinowski,
Yes.
T. Willis Elkins,
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster,
Yes.
Joel Goldstein,
Yes.
Joel Gross, Sonia Iglesia, Moisha Indig, Bozina Kaminsky, Avram Katz, William Klagsbold, Ryan Coonan,
Yes.
Joel Landau, Marie Lianza,
Yes.
Abraham Leibovitz, Yoel Lowe, Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Toby Moskowitz,
Yes.
Martin Needleman,
Yes.
Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Mary O'Damara,
Yes.
Janice Peterson,
Yes.
Dana Racklin,
Abstain.
Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer, Robert Solano,
See.
James Stewart, Del Teague,
Yes.
Tommy Torres.
He
He put in the chat, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tommy is asking to be allowed in. He said yes.
Okay, thank you. Tommy Torres votes yes. William Vega,
Yes.
Maria Vieira,
Yes.
Maria Vieira,
Yes.
Stephen Weidberg,
Yes.
Simon Weiser, Simon. I saw him for a minute and then he was gone. Okay, 1, 2, 3. "31 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention. Motion carries."
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Second,
Karen.
thank you. Second item was the ferry, New York City ferry, the South Williamsburg landing work. Roddy Miranda from EDC and his team came to update the committee on efforts to improve the landing for the ferry at Schaefer Landing. Basically they're waiting for approval from Army Corps and from the planning department of the city before they can start work, but they hope to start work by the end of this month, March. The project will last about 8 to 10 weeks, barring any unforeseen problems at the site. They're trying to get it done before the heavy ferry season of the late spring, summer into the fall. It was really just EDC coming to give us an update. There were a number of questions about bike parking, about the quality of the surface materials, and to just improve the way the customers use the service, putting the kiosk closer to the landing, making it more ADA accessible, increasing the size of the dock to accommodate 2 ferries to increase ridership. So because you can read all the details in the report, but since they're waiting on permits, it may not start at the end of the month, and Mr. Miranda has agreed to come back for the April meeting just for a brief update. So we'll be letting people know what's going on that way. He'll come back regardless whether the work has started or not, and if they've foreseen any problems or when they think they will start. So it will be closed. Schaefer Landing will be closed for the duration of that period. Third item was back to Open Streets discussion. Kyle Gorman from the Open Streets program came to update the committee on the workshops that were held last month. folks will remember, and a lot of people were on those meetings with breakout sessions about what works, what doesn't work. They have not completed assimilating the data from either the meetings or the surveys. They are still working on that. They will report that out when they are ready sometime later this spring. There are still concerns with, well, I raised the concern that there was a lot of discussion in my work, my breakout, that about a third of the breakout was dedicated to Bedford Avenue as an open street, which was troubling because that would be the second northbound street. Kyle said again that they're not looking at it, that it was put into the workshops because of the strong response from the surveys. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. There's still an issue with residents of the North 7th to North 9th on Berry Street corridor regarding what the summer is going to look like and what it looked like last year. And there are planned meetings coming up for that, which I can't make public now because they haven't been announced, but they will be coming up shortly. And then we got into a conversation about the open culture streets. It was not an agenda item, so I kept it to the end, and we heard from Larry Drucker, Alyssa Iberti, and Sante, because he's on Milton Street. He's adjacent to that, with that block association, and works closely with Oak and Noble Street block associations. There's just a lot of concern from the Noble Street residents that Noble from Franklin to West has been designated. Their concern comes out of the projected opening of the city shortly, with the expo center there, with the park there. There's already a lot of overflow when the expo operates normally, and with the culture street also there, it could be a serious issue. There are meetings happening. There was a meeting last night regarding it that's being put together by Councilman Levin's office, and there will be more meetings coming up. We will have this as an agenda item on the April meeting to discuss it more in depth. This is not a DOT issue per se. DOT has the responsibility to vet streets that are proposed, but the street activity permitting office is the governing body, I guess you would say. And so we will try to get somebody from SAPO to come in and thank you, Ben, and get somebody from SAPO there to come in and explain their methodology and respond to community concerns. So that was the open streets discussion. You can read the report for the comments. A lot of them were, a lot of it is the same, but we are starting to get outreach. DOT does, Kyle Gorman has made every meeting that we've had on this issue. And so there is commitment from DOT, at least at my meeting, that they're working on it, but we are holding their feet to the fire, particularly on the Berry North 7th, North 9th corridor, and just making the program work going forward, because it's not going away. So we should make it work right. Old business, Ryan asked about letters going out. The letters that we voted on last month did go out. Thank you to Marie in the office for that. And then we went into new business. Will Elkins brought up the timing. This was some of you may have remembered the email that he had sent around regarding the timing of the lights at McGinnis and Nassau Norman. Both those intersections have a kind of dodgy timing for pedestrians to cross. We were happy to have Assistant Borough Commissioner Claudette Workman attending the meeting. And we've already had communication from her and DOT that they are looking into those, the timing of those intersections. Ryan Quonen brought up the death of Lakedra Thomas at the intersection of Broadway and Graham, which I think we all know is a pretty treacherous intersection. We also have an open case number on review of that location because Assistant Commissioner Workman was there. Very productive meeting. And so hopefully we can get some resolutions there as well. What else did we talk about in new business? Folks probably know when Ryan brought up Lakedra Thomas that a 6-year-old Shimon Freed was killed by a private school bus last week, and it was a hit and run accident. So just another thing where the streets continue to be sources of danger really in our community, and with the hit and run accident by a yellow school bus, you really have to wonder. We're going to look at that a little bit more closely going forward, just how those buses operate, and we'll be taking that up at a future meeting. Kevin Lachera announced that he is having 2 meetings. There's some folks were on the Make Meeker Move visioning session that happened a few months ago. The next one is tomorrow night, March 11th at 7 p.m. I'm sorry, I do not have the link for that because I don't think he sent it to me. But if anybody has the link and they want to put it in the chat, that would be fantastic. I will be attending. And then he's also putting together with some folks to look at a plaza for adjacent to Church of the Holy Family and Lot Radio, across from Automotive High School in the backside. That people that know Lot Radio, it's like that triangle that where Banker and North 15th intersect at the apex. It's the section of North 15th, but both traffic turns into North 15th and to Banker. So Kevin made a commitment to reach out to Evergreen to make sure that it wouldn't conflict with existing businesses because it's on the IBZ. So we'll be looking to hear that sometime soon. And those of you not aware that the application process for Plaza programs is coming up, is going to open up next month. So there's that. And that was it. Next meeting is Tuesday, April 6th. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Women's issues.
Hold on, I have a question.
Sure, Karen, go.
Okay, sorry that I could not attend the last meeting. I just wanted to clarify, or just to maybe if you could send the link to the board for the open culture permits, because there is a list of streets, not only Noble Street, that was designated as a possibility. The open culture events permits started March 1st. So I guess right now we don't have any permits that they're requesting. But again, this is through SAPO. And I know Eric's going to put this on the next agenda, but if anyone wants to look at the designated streets that they are, referring to in Community Board 1, I would suggest to go on the link, if you could send the link to the board prior to that meeting. So if there's any concerns about other streets. Because again, this is a permit to shut the street down. There could be, they're allowed music and
It's actually unclear. So the NYPD says if you have a stage, you can have amplified music, but the application says so. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get worked. Sorry to cut you off. Right. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get worked out. And I didn't want to take up a lot of time at what was already planning to be a long meeting at transportation, because I really want to unpack this, and hopefully we have some applications. So yeah, I'll work with Marie to send out that link again. Some of you, it's already gone out once, but folks should take a look at it, and but we'll resend it, and yeah, and maybe we'll have some applications to actually look at and review. And hopefully we can get Sapo there to unpack this. Thanks. Sorry, Karen. You can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric, also, if I can add 30 seconds, something important for the community at large, because as you said, the parameters are very vague, but I believe what has been alarming community here, especially the coalition of this block association, but this could affect anybody else somewhere else, and is misleading. People didn't understand really clearly because it says 4 permit per applicant, but potentially if you have 8 applicants, it means you can fill the full month, and the permit allowed you to amplify music sound for 12 hours a day, including dismantling whatever it is. So you potentially, with those fast stage, you can have 10 hours a day of amplified music for 30 days a month. So it's something is very vague, but it could be very disastrous for certain community. You know, maybe you have tolerance once in a while, but 30 days a month, you know. So that's what is important to clarify for the community at large, because 4 times is per applicant. Okay, that's all.
Thanks. And Madam Chair, Ben Solitaire was on that call yesterday. If he's recognized later, he can fill folks in on what Councilman Levin's office is doing to facilitate that. And I just want to thank Willis for throwing the Make Maker Move link up in the chat.
Thank you. We got people that want to give their reports. Alex wants to make a short announcement. Alex, you said it's going to be short. I'm going to hold you to your word.
Yes, we'll be short. So first, I just wanted to say that we opened the office of the council member like 2 weeks ago. So we're taking people that are calling. It's everything by appointment only. And we're focusing on seniors and disabled people that are doing their taxes, the 210 and 214. I know that there's some other places that are not doing them this year. So it's for people that are retired. So we're doing the taxes, the 210, 214, and has to be by appointment only. The phone number, 718-963-3141, 718-963-3141. And the other thing that you just wanted to mention, according to Mr. Eric Brusaidi, that mentioned about the open street, I've been talking to the office of the Councilmember Levin. Is something that is related with the lack of Polish interpretation or language flyers. So we've been talking about that. We also spoke earlier today with Bogina to discuss more about like some issues that the community is facing. So I just wanted to keep you updated. That's all, Ms. Fuller, and thank you so much.
You're welcome, Alex. Have a good evening. Women's issues.
Let's see. Hi. We had an extremely lively committee meeting that was kind of a joint meeting on the 16th with the outreach committee, the economic development committee, and Simon was also there. And we first focused in on COVID. We wanted to add to the fact that the community is trying to bring more awareness or look at what the issues are. And of course, and I appreciate Tom and all the updates about what's happening to women in different places in your committee. I think that's important. And obviously women are everywhere. So we talked quite a bit about the fact that women's, particularly senior women, I just want to add quickly because we don't need a long thing on it, but older women that are locked in, it's a pretty serious issue. Not getting out, not having a place to go. And Bozina and Marie and other people that work a lot with the seniors are saying that, you know, something has to happen. Now, what has to happen is another question that we're looking at, but certainly spaces need to be opened up for seniors who are largely women, that they can go out and not just have to stay in the building. Because from a health point of view, I think you all know that getting fresh air and not staying in an apartment is pretty important. And of course, we also have the children and the mothers that are locked in to their places all over the place. And the issue of the schools only, children going to school several days a week and not full time, and what that's doing to women, that largely women, obviously men are there too, taking care of kids. They're getting out, they're socializing, they're being able to be around, you know. So we feel that there needs to be more dialogue with the school system here, because we don't hear too much at the community board about how reconciliation is being brought about, though we do hear that they're going to open up full time, and certainly the president wants to do that. They are the big issue that we mainly, besides focusing on COVID and women and getting ready. I mean, I think that the underlying pin is how people are saying, where are we going to focus resources as we move out of the COVID? What are the priorities that this community has? How do we make sure that the issues that everybody has, but we're saying in particular, what's often not seen are the issues of seniors, the health issues and others. How do we come up with a prioritized list of actions and agenda, even from the community board point of view? We have a budget that we look at every year. What is it that we think is the most important? Because if we don't, people will decide for us, seems to be the tone. And we moved with onto women's economic well-being, that right now women are really in crisis. And before, women were there was a time in the last few years, as you all know, where women began to do quite well. And they were getting not well-paid jobs, but they were getting jobs. Now it's clear that women are losing ground rapidly. And there really is, and they talk about it certainly with Biden and Carol Maloney and others, about universal child care, because you can't move to jobs, you can't look at economic situations if you don't have affordable child care, and the cost of child care and what people have to pay in able to work, and how to restore this economy after COVID requires some really clear thoughts about what is it. So we are starting on the 16th of March, which is part of, this is International Women's Day and Women's History Month, and honor that, to do a close look at what is it that women are recommending for that needs to be an economic stimulus, and not just being looked at as victims and clients, but as actors in small business, because that came up quite a bit, that women's small businesses are being hard hit. They had on Franklin Street 5 small businesses run by single moms, and 4 of them closed down. Francoise talked about how most of the congressional people and elected people are not mothers, and therefore the issues of mothers and children do not come out very clearly, and we're not getting the policies that people need. And I know we've all been hearing for a very long time, and certainly the Women's Issues Committee, that the child care issue and the cost has been there forever, but you can see it hardly emerges. Then we had, so we want to go in depth on that and have more dialogues. And the issue of recreation certainly was still there. The women's swim group is wanting to know why that their pool is not open. There is the thought that if one wanted to, one could open the pool. You couldn't open up the, what do you call it, the area where you change your clothes. But a lot of places are having people swim, but you come in with your bathing suit, you swim and you leave. That swimming is one of the safest places people could be, but people are not trying to do the creative thing to open up more space for women to have recreation. And in fact, there's an offer by the women's swim group to take people to Florida to see where they're doing it all the time and other places in this country where people are swimming. I've been in Pennsylvania. People are certainly swimming in the YWCA, and they have locker rooms. They're not getting COVID. People have come up with solutions that are not emerging. And one of the hot issues that came up is Victoria Cambrai brought in the issue of the independence houses over the noise and reconstruction. And again, where women and children, Hispanic, Black, and Hasidic, are locked in, and it was very noisy. And the nice thing is that Simon was there, and he brought onto the phone Joel Gross. So we were able to have a real dialogue of people that were all affected by what was happening in independence houses. And the two of them were going to meet further, because often this dialogue doesn't take place. So I want to end with the fact of Simon and I've talked today too, is that it was very refreshing in the discussion on COVID, where people could talk openly about what's happening in the Hasidic community, what's happening with bars and other places, and that we could have a dialogue instead of people being afraid to talk about what's really going on. And I thought it was interesting to find out that a lot of people in the Hasidic community believe that they've had COVID already. They have 95%. So people feel safer for walking outside, but that they still are social distancing in schools, in stores, and they want to be recognized for the work that is going on. Even if we all have a lot of emotional feelings, we all have different ideas about what has to happen. I'll tell you that, because I don't see any issue, even in my own family, I don't know about yours, that has more people fighting about what in the heck we're all supposed to be doing than all the rules around COVID. But the fact that a dialogue took place and that people could stop being afraid, as Sante said, if we can, even at the community board, if we are more open, and we don't have to be offensive, but we certainly have to be listening to what is happening with each other so people can say and look at solutions to what we're having. So I want to thank Simon for being there and being frank, and it was very helpful. And we're going to move on we hope to move on March 16th. There will be a summit on women in business that's next Tuesday night, and we're still trying to finalize certain parts of the plan. So that will go to the community board office as fast as we finish it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Jan.
Lisa, or I don't know who's else all there, Marie?
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan. Board budget, Maria.
Huh?
I wasn't aware I was going to be able to present.
Yes.
So thank you very much. The board budget committee met. It was a very short meeting to discuss the impending cuts to the board budget. And it was decided by OMB that they were going to, well, in December, they requested to reduce the board budget by $11,000. $11,000 plus dollars. I'm looking for my report. I wasn't aware I was next, so I'm sorry. And we did not respond to that request. And what ended up happening was that OMB decided to impose a reduction on the budget by that $11,000 in a deferred manner, where they will be reducing the 2022 budget by $7,500 and the 2023 budget by the remaining $4,000. And I'm really sorry because I can't see the actual figures. Again, I have to look for my own report, so I apologize. And so what happened was that the district manager proposed to return an unspent amount, the current unspent amount in this current year of $2,771 that I remember. And with the returning of that, OMB has kind of committed to extending giving a no-cost extension to community boards. So what would happen is that if that $2,700 is returned this year, in this fiscal year, they will allow it to offset the $7,500 that will be reduced in the next fiscal year, which is 2022, which means that the reduction would actually be in the 4,000s. So there was a recommendation proposed to I'm sorry, I just found my report. There was a recommendation to allow the committee to request to return to OMB the $2,771, and if OMB approves it, then reduce the $7,500 reduced in 2022. So there was a motion made by Jan Peterson to approve the returning of the $2,700 for the offset, and there was a unanimous vote to agree to submit that return to OMB to offset that reduction. So I guess we're going to need to propose a motion of the full board to approve returning $2,771 in this current fiscal year to OMB, and OMB would then in return allow an extension to use that $2,700 in the next year's budget and offset that $7,500 reduction. If you all agree, if you understand the motion, does anyone?
Well, Marie, maybe I can help you a little. If it's okay with you, Maria, can I help a little with this?
Yeah, right, because I'm not seeing the
Okay.
report very well. Mhm.
So what the board would be seeing for fiscal year 21 is a give back of, and we found a couple of more dollars, $27.98. For fiscal year 22, a give back of $4,702. And for fiscal year 23, a give back of $4,281, which meets the mayor's goal of a total give back of $11,781.
Does everyone understand what that means? Okay, so the motion is, yes, Steve.
Yeah, so how is it we have this leftover money this year and then next year? Was that allocated, supposed to go to something in particular, and we're not going to spend it on that, or we just?
Well, it basically, and I believe this went out to everyone in Maria's report, it basically covers the necessary incidentals for the office. I don't want to use the word surplus because we never have a surplus, but this, I guess the best way to say, we're using uncommitted funds to apply towards the give back. So from now till June 30th, we would actually be at zero funds. And that's the $27.98. That's the give back.
And would there be any sort of reduction in service in the office in terms of just like equipment and operational?
I hope not, but if something breaks between now and June 30th, we would probably not be able to make the repair or make the replacement.
So ideally, there's always, as Jerry mentioned, there's like a small cushion to allow for those unforeseen situations like repairs or increased service rates that you don't anticipate happening. And that's where those funds are. However, that cushion, with giving it back, that cushion will be eliminated. So any increases to service rates, repairs that are not foreseen, that are unwarranted, would not be covered in the next fiscal year. They wouldn't be covered anyway because of the reduction. And that's what that means.
Sorry,
So
one more.
it
do-
wouldn't
we may
be
have to
that
do-
cushion and anything else.
But that might be solvable by fundraising within the board if necessary, by personal donations, stuff like that.
Well, that's a separate conversation, perhaps, yes, if there were personal donations or actively engaged in fundraising to supplement those shortfalls, absolutely. Something that we could talk about.
Do the amounts increase? So that initially it was like $3,500 to cut in 2021 and then like 8,000 the following year. Seems like that number increased.
It was $11,000 in total. So what they did was defer it. And since there was a request to just take it in one setting, that didn't happen. No one responded, or the board just sat quietly waiting to see OMB's actions. What they ended up doing was just like deferring it in two separate amounts. And for 2022, it's $7,500. And for 2023, Jerry, do you have that complete amount? Because the numbers changed based on a couple of dollars here and there.
The total is still the same, $11,781, but we were able to petition OMB to spread it out over 3 fiscal years instead of 2.
So the motion is, or the motion that was unanimously voted was to return the 2,700. Actually, Jerry just corrected that number to OMB with
$2,798.
27 with the commitment and approval from OMB to allow us to use it as a no-cost extension into fiscal year 2022. Thereby reducing the reduction of 7,500 to 4,000. Jerry, the number, I'm sorry.
Yes, so for FY21, this current fiscal year, we'd be giving back $2,798. For next fiscal year, which starts July 1st, we'd be giving back $4,702. And then for fiscal year 23, which would begin the following July, we'd be giving back $4,281, which gives us a grand total of $11,781, which is the goal.
Can I just make a comment to that? So if I understand correctly, at the end of the fiscal year, any funds that are not used goes back to OMB. So we currently have this amount. If we didn't use it on incidentals, we've gotten it from the city that we can use it to offset the 7,500 they're going to take from us anyway.
Correct.
So we're basically saying, hopefully there's nothing that's going to break, that we don't run out of staples, that we don't run out of paper or anything like that, so that we can give them back this money and we will have a larger budget to work with next fiscal year, starting July 1st.
Larger than the reduction of the 7,500, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
I will make a motion if we're ready for that.
Please. Anyone second the motion?
I second the motion.
Second.
Okay,
So is that seconded by
made the motion.
Sante?
Who seconded? Who seconded?
Motion is,
I can't hear who seconded.
That's it. Lisa Bamonte.
Okay, Lisa Mamadi, roll call vote, please.
I asked that we repeat the motion before we go through the vote.
All right, Marty, the motion is to accept, Maria, with your permission, the motion is to accept the committee's recommendation to give back for fiscal year 21, $2,798. To give back for fiscal year 22, $4,702. To give back for fiscal year 23, $4,281, for a grand total of $11,781, which is the mayor's goal via OMB.
Okay.
Are you clear on the motion yet? Are you clear on the motion, Marty? Are you clear on the motion, Marty? Look like we lost him. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Or he said yes. Gina Argento. Bogdan Bakarowski. Lisa Bamonte.
Yes.
Gina Barros.
Yes.
Keon Brooks.
Yes.
Eric Brusadas.
Yes.
Tom Burrows.
Yes.
Iris Cabrera.
Yes.
Phil Caponegro.
Yes.
Frank Carbone.
Yes.
Stephen Chesler.
Yes.
Michael Chirichella. Teresa Cinciata. Giovanni D'Amato. Erin Drinkwater.
Yes.
Arthur Dubinowski.
Yes.
T. Willis Elkins.
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster.
Yes.
Joel Goldstein.
Yes.
Joel Gross. Sonia Iglesia. Moisha Indig. Bozina Kaminsky.
Yes.
Avram Katz. William Klagsbold.
Yes.
Ryan Coonan.
Yes.
Yoel Landau. Marie Leanza. Abraham Leibovitz. Yoel.
Did you hear me, Jerry? I said
I-
yes.
I hear you now. Thank you. Marie Leanza votes yes. Abraham Leibovitz. Yoel Lowe.
Yes.
Yes. Trina McKeever.
Yes.
Sante Michelli.
Yes.
Toby Moskowitz. Martin Needleman.
Yes.
Rabbi Needleman. Karen Nieves.
Yes.
Mario Damrock.
Yes.
Janice Peterson. Dana Racklin.
Yes.
Bella Sable. Isaac Sofer. Robert Solano. James Stewart. Del Teague.
Yes.
Tommy Torres. William Vega.
Yes, Tommy Torres.
William Vega. Maria Vieira.
Yes.
Stephen Weidberg.
Yes.
Simon Weiser. Simon, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Give me thumbs up or thumbs up. Simon Weiser votes aye. "29 members in the affirmative. Motion passes.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay,
Does
great.
that conclude your report, Maria?
Yes, that concludes. Well, I just wanted to add that Ms. Jen Peterson did mention that there could be a benefit to recruiting interns or volunteers from local learning institutions to help increase capacity at the district office if needed in the event that any of these reductions impact staffing. And that was all.
Okay. Housing and public housing.
That's me again.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So on March 1st, there was a joint meeting of the Housing and Public Housing Committee with the Land Use ULURP Landmarks Committee. And the topic of discussion that day was around an article that was published by City Limits on January 22nd called "Advocates Lawmakers Hope to Pass a Racial Impact Rezoning Legislation this spring." So the article references a bill that was introduced, which is 1572-A, co-sponsored by the public advocate, Jumaane Williams, It's expected to be voted on by the city council this April. And what it talks about is a bill that adds a new section to the city charter that requires certain applications which trigger the city's public land use review process to include a racial disparity report that examines the demographics and displacement trends in neighborhoods like ours. So the article mentions that according to the bill, the racial disparity report would need to examine a number of existing socioeconomic demographics within a specific radius of the project area. So it would have to look at things like existing housing conditions, the number of rent stabilized for rent regulated units, rent burdened households, so those that pay over the 30% of their income towards rent, a lot of folks that we know, and median rents in the neighborhood, as well as home prices and eviction rates. It needs to include a neighborhood and education levels, household incomes. The applicants would be required, and I mean developer applicants, would be required to outline racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic trends in the area for a period of 20 years before the application was filed. So kind of like what we just saw earlier today, where there was an application that came in for a variance to change an industrial development to a residential, knowing that back in 1965, there was a fire, there was a trend, so there would have to be a study that goes back 20 years to identify certain socioeconomic trends. So the proposed developer would have to show projected rent amounts for all of the units, along with an analysis of the household incomes needed to afford those units without causing any more tenants or the tenants to be rent burdened. So, so the article also mentions an environmental impact statement that does not weigh in, that currently environmental impact statements do not weigh in neighborhoods' impacts as it relates to race and ethnicities. So it talks about how rezonings and the current system have increased residential displacement because the system is not structured to view land use and city planning decisions through a racial or an equity lens. So advocates are arguing that without regulated MIH or rezonings, developments and communities will continue to be created as unregulated and unfettered market rate housing. So basically, or essentially, the joint committee meeting debated these potential actions, the potential actions that community boards would have to address, how to address these issues once, if this introduction becomes a bill, if the bill becomes legislation, I'm sorry, how does that impact or how does that inform land use community board committees moving forward when developers come to request certain variances? So it was a hearty discussion. Richard Barrett from the Brooklyn Borough President's Office suggested some affirmative steps to take, would be looking at or commenting on residential rezonings, looking at them through a racial equity lens. And examples of that would be to request to adjust AMIs or the MIH to meet the community needs, to not displace more people, so that if you need larger units, more bedrooms or whatever it is, that would accommodate specific communities. And also recommending that city-owned properties are developed to protect lower income communities, ensuring local preferences and compensating deeper subsidies to capture the needed MIHs. And other affirmative steps would be recommending involuntary and permanent affordability, regulating affordable home ownership opportunities to prevent resale at market rates. So like folks have been able to purchase those partnership homes or homes that were sold at a very, very affordable rates, and then are making banking and making a big buck in reselling those, paying back the subsidy, but selling them at market rates, so that that opportunity is not afforded to a person that is of low income, as they were at one point. So the discussion was completely about that, and it concluded with a shared agreement that we just have to kind of wait to see what happens and hope that there's objective direction provided by city planning if this bill ever becomes law, which it's kind of looking like it will. So that was the conclusion of that meeting. I don't know if there's anyone else that was present at that meeting that would like to add anything. Steve Chesler, perhaps, he's very vocal at the meeting and expressing thoughts and things that, or ideas of what we should be requesting from developers when coming to request variances.
Well, I think you essentially covered it. I think it's just, I think especially crucial to our neighborhood. We've just seen the impacts of the 2005 and 2009 rezonings, especially on the south side with Latino residents, double-digit displacement based on Churches United study. So I think it's pretty crucial that I think I don't know. I think we all agreed that it's a really important initiative. Yeah, it's just too bad it wasn't done like decades ago. But yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Parks and Waterfront, Bill?
Thank you, Dallas. Good evening, everybody.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to unvideo myself. Okay, we had our meeting on March 4th. I want to thank my committee members. We had a quorum for that meeting. We had 2 items on the agenda. The first one was a temporary art proposal for McCarran Park. It was presented by Elizabeth Masella, Senior Arts Coordinator for New York City Parks. It was called the Plywood Protection Project, and it'll be on the corner of Union and Robeline, and it will be running from May through October. So a nice little addition to our park, McCarran Park. And then the second item was, as you all have heard, the discussion on Marsha P. Johnson State Park. Very passionate. We had heard from our local officials, from concerned citizens, from citizen groups in our community, and it was very hard pressed, and I could tell you there was really no support at all for the design or for the way it was presented to us. So we did come up with a resolution. We heard from, we had very passionate. I have to bring up the point that what really, I think got everybody's attention was that when her family members came on and told us that they had not been included in any way, it really hit a chord with all of us. And with that being said, this was the resolution that we came up with. I'd like to read it, and then I'd like to get a vote. The new resolution states that New York State Parks should cease construction on the design of Marsha P. Johnson State Park. New York State representatives must converse with local Greenpoint Williamsburg community, the LGBTQ community, and the family of Marsha P. Johnson on all future design, specifically omitting the thermoplastic mural and form core flowers. And with that, Madam Chair, we did get a unanimous vote from all members there.
Hey,
and I'd like
so-
to
Madam Chair.
Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I would like to propose a amendment to the resolution that I think.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, essentially, keeping the the first sentence as it is, but oh no, it's actually okay. basically, New York State Park should cease construction on the redesign of the Marsha P. Johnson State Park, and construction must continue to be halted until New York State Parks representatives convene scoping meetings with the larger Greenpoint Williamsburg community, the LGBTQ plus community, and the family of Marsha P. Johnson on a new design of the park that reconsiders all areas, uses, and elements of the park, including but not limited to the slabs areas, the thermoplastic mural, and foam core flowers, historic preservation, pathway and roadway treatments, fiscal allocations, and the open food market concession. I feel like this more further embraces kind of what was expressed at the meeting, and also in light of State Parks through Leslie Wright's report that she admitted to the board, that which she did not divulge during the Parks Committee meeting, that there's an RFP out there to not only to seek a food concession for the old slab, but now for the new one with the mural. And I feel like it's just another, the community expressed they want input on everything, like the entire park, all the uses, et cetera, and questioning what the uses should be and whether we want, the park to be a host of ongoing food festival, which members of this board and the community have questioned over the years. So I feel like this amended resolution will more deeply,
Steve, I think,
capture that.
yeah, I think Steve is hitting the nail on the head. Because from the meeting on Thursday night to now, so much more has come to light. So I will definitely second Steve's new
I
amendment.
just have a question. Steve, does the amendment call for the RFP to be rescinded so that it can be studied? Because the RFP is out right now.
Yeah, I could add another phrase for that, because
I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think so too. It's
Yeah.
really
Okay,
important.
so I have additional language for that. Because the request for proposals currently issued by New York State Parks for the open food market concession necessitates the existence of two platforms, which would preclude the possibility of the elimination of one or both platforms, the RFP must be withdrawn until New York State Parks receives full input from the public regarding the design of the entire park, including the former platform sites. So,
Yeah.
so I think.
I second it.
Yep.
I second. Del Teague, I second the motion.
Thank you, Del. Dallas, a vote? Well, Jerry, a vote.
Okay, a motion has been made and second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Gina Argento, Bogdan Bakarowski, Lisa Bamonte, Gina Barros,
Yes.
Tion Brooks.
Yes.
Sorry,
Who was
that
that?
was Lisa. Lisa, sorry.
How do you vote? How do you vote, Lisa?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Eric Brusitis,
Yes.
Tom Burrows,
Yes.
Iris Cabrera,
Yes.
Phil Caponegro,
Yes.
Frank Carbone,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Michael Chiucella, Teresa Cinciata, Giovanni D'Amato,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater,
Yes.
Arthur Dibinowski,
Yes.
T. Willis Elkins,
Yes.
Julia Amanda Foster, Joel Goldstein,
Yes.
Joel Gross, Sonia Iglesia, Moisha Indig, Bozina Kaminsky,
Yes.
Avram Katz, William Klagsbald,
Yes.
Ryan Coonan,
Yes.
Yo Landau, Marie Lianza,
Yes.
Abraham Leibovitz, Yo Lowe,
Yes.
Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Toby Moskowitz, Martin Needleman,
Yes.
Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves,
Yes.
Mario Damaruk,
Yes.
Janice Peterson, Dana Racklin,
Yes.
Bella Sable, Isaac Sofer, Robert Solano, James Stewart, Del Teague,
Yes.
Tommy Torres, William Vega,
Yes, Tommy Torres.
William Vega, Maria Vieira,
Yes.
Stephen Weinberg,
Yes.
Simon Weiser. Yes, 0 no, 0 abstention, motion carries.
Thank you, Jerry. Does that conclude your report, Phil?
So, thank you, Dale. Sorry, yes, I unmuted myself. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Economic Development Committee, Toby Markowitz. Toby? Economic Development? Well, look like we don't have Toby with us anymore, so we will go back to Parks Department as written. Elected officials, do we have
Excuse
any
me,
elected?
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair.
Can I pose a question to Mary Salick?
To who?
To Mary Salick, is she on?
Madam
About
Chair.
I don't know if she's on.
Oh.
Madam Chair, please.
Yes.
Now, before we close the committee report section, I am mentioning in my report that if we had to do a motion about having our intern that I mentioned to help the committee with the production of material, it would be a very helpful labor. And maybe we could do a vote because the committee voted on that and we had a quorum. But I didn't want to interrupt that while there were other committee going on. So before we abandon the committee section, I want to take advantage. Maybe we could do a motion for that.
She need to send in a non-board member form to be put on the committee.
Yeah, no, the question was beyond her apply to be a non-board member in the committee. Can we have also the motion for her to help us assist as an intern while she does the application?
Did she find out if this is going to be a conflict of interest?
No, she's gonna have even a letter to produce, but there is no conflict of interest. She'll really do. She just want to follow the meeting. She'll do whatever we ask her to do, and then what she do outside of our environment, it's not our business.
What I need from you, Sante, I need you to send me a letter of description of the duties that you want her to perform before I take this any further.
Okay, I just don't want to miss time because it is a very valuable.
Send me a letter of what the description of what you want her to do on the committee.
Okay, thank you.
And then we'll decide. Thank you.
Okay.
Dallas?
Yes.
Mary Hussein's is an attendee. Do you want me to open her microphone?
Yes, somebody Chancellor has a question for her.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Mary, yeah, just in your report, you mentioned the 50th section of Bushwick Inlet Park is to start construction in the spring. So is that actually happening or still an estimate?
I don't have a date for construction yet. We hope to start as soon as possible, but hopefully we'll get you guys a date before the end of the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question. This is Ryan.
Is it for Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just curious if there's going to be any if Parks is planning any large scale events this summer in our parks, because after seeing the RFP for New York State and that they were just going to have to 15,000 people coming into the park. I was curious what New York City Parks is planning as far as summer events, fairs. Is it back to normal programming, or are we still on social distancing?
So we are not back to normal programming at all in our parks. I've spoken with some of our special events programming folks who issue permits. What's allowed right now in city parks are special events of up to 50 people, and that's on a case-by-case basis. There's no acoustics, there's no amplified sound allowed in the parks. We are taking it month by month, day by day, and just following what COVID guidelines are issued by the governor's office.
Are there any more questions for Mary?
Yeah, sorry, Madam Chair, one more. On Bushwick Inlet Park. Mary, any word on the soccer field repair funding?
I don't have an update on that yet. Hopefully we'll have something soon. We do have our stakeholder meeting, Steve, next week, and I'm going to try to get as many updates as I can by that meeting, but I have not heard a date on that meeting just yet.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again.
Yep, no problem.
Any more questions for Mary? Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, can we call the elected officials that have signed, reps that signed up to speak?
There's only one person who indicated that he wanted to speak was Ed Cerna.
Okay.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Chair. So I want to give a couple of updates. First of all, last week the city administered 340,000 vaccinations, and that's over 2 million thus far. The city announced a Vaccine for All Corps, which is going to be hiring people to be involved in the vaccination effort. And they're going to be focused on hiring in the 33 neighborhoods that were hardest hit by COVID. So if anyone is interested in what jobs are available, you could go to nyc.gov/vaccine-jobs. I do want to confirm receipt of a letter on vaccination sites from the board. I have sent that to the Vaccine Command Center. Up until recently, as we know, supply of the vaccine was an issue. But now that supply lines are opening up, it remains to be seen where some other sites are going to come online. So I don't have like a direct response to the letter, but again, I can confirm that the VCC received it. I also don't have too many details on this because I feel like the city's still sort of bringing it online. But there is a form where homebound seniors can go to express interest in the J&J vaccine. Signing up does not guarantee that you'll get an appointment because, again, logistics are sort of in the works. But I'll drop that link down in the chat. So if anyone is familiar with someone who is a homebound senior, they can assist them in signing up. Additionally, we're coming up on March 14th. That is a milestone, a solemn one, which is the first known COVID death in our city. The city is going to mark that day with a day of remembrance, and there's going to be a memorial. The city is taking photos of loved ones that were lost, and you can submit that so it can potentially be part of the ceremony in the video that they're going to be showing. So if anyone wants to submit any photos, you can do so at nyc.gov/COVID memorial. And then the actual event will be the Sunday at 7:45 p.m. and you can watch that live at nyc.gov again /COVID memorial. Also on the mayor's office's, several social media accounts. I think I'll leave it at that, and happy to take any questions. I'm sort of closing the loop on what Tom said about some of the homeless stuff and coordination that needs to be happening. I am working on that. But other than that, yeah, happy to take any questions.
Edward, is what you was talking about with seniors signing up for the J&J vaccine, does that mean that seniors, because I know there was some talk about seniors signing up to be vaccinated if they were immobile. They get vaccinated at their homes.
Right. So yeah, so the homebound seniors would be exactly that. So that's the link that I'm going to be dropping in the chat. Again, I don't have too many details on it because logistics are being worked out. But for those seniors that are interested for the J&J and are homebound, meaning they have mobility issues, can't leave home and all of that, they can fill out that form.
Okay, they fill out the form and they can be vaccinated at their homes.
Yes, exactly. Again, it's not a guarantee.
I understand.
But yes, that's the purpose of the form.
Thank you so much, Ed.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
As far as I know you don't have much information right now, but please, as soon as you get the information for the homebound seniors, if you could send it, to the board, because this is a real issue. And I just want to, to commend St. Nick's and Las Sulas and the community board for really trying, to put pressure, on the mayor and the city, for our seniors, because so many don't have access to computers. And they, I struggled and was a lunatic trying to get, an appointment for my stepdad and for my husband. And I finally just got one for them. So, this is really, really an important issue when it comes to our homebound seniors. So please, if you could keep the pressure on, and again, I just want to thank, the community board and St. Nick's and the Sulas and all the other organizations, CUF and everybody, for really trying to push to get our seniors in our community vaccinated. And we do need more locations. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone.
You're welcome, Karen. Is there anything else?
I just want to say that I agree with Karen. I feel like it's very difficult for the seniors, and there needs to be more locations in the community for them and help to be able to make these appointments, because it's very difficult to go online and try to make an appointment. So I agree with Karen. If Ed could work with us, I would say.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I say something? It's Mary O'Dalmarok. I have some news.
Yes.
So during the course of this meeting, I got a call from Congresswoman Maloney, and she is working on getting vaccines to us possibly as early as this Saturday. However, we need to find a site that is ADA accessible. So I'm throwing that question out to the board. If they have a site in mind that has possibly a ramp or an elevator, people can also social distance on the inside.
What about 211 Ainsley?
Do you have a ramp and an elevator?
I have a ramp and an elevator.
You got a ramp both.
There's a
Okay. All right, so I will suggest that site because it has to be approved by the governor. We can submit the site, but it also has to be approved by the governor. So if we can get this done quite rapidly, then I will call her tonight and we can get this this moving. So is that the site that everybody is looking to have?
Yes. Yes, that's the most convenient at this time.
Okay, so I will submit that, and maybe there's another possibility as well. So does anyone have another idea for another site? Because that
community center. They can use also the Student Senior Center in Fort, and Ronnie is also as well available.
I'm sorry, it has to be in her district.
I said Cooper Park Community Center.
Okay, do you have a ramp and an elevator?
They have a ramp, but they don't have an elevator. They have a giant gym. Once you come in, you're right there.
Okay, so I will, yeah?
This is Rosanna.
Everybody, please mute yourself if you're not speaking.
We also have the site on 177 Kent Street. We have election site there for the Board of Election. And it has wheelchair accessible
Okay.
accessibility. So
Okay. So I will submit all three of those sites and see what the governor, what the governor does about that. And I will inform the board as soon as I know anything. One other thing.
Thank you so,
Thank
you so much for that information, Mayor. It's very helpful.
One other thing is that I know I sent information from our office to the board concerning anybody who now wants to make a phone call reservation rather than an online reservation. So there is, an availability for anybody who wants to make a phone call reservation for vaccine now.
Great. Okay. Well, you can resend that information, Mary, and we'll send it out again.
Okay, I will.
Can
Thank
I say
you.
something in regard to that so we can?
I think Eric wanted to say something. Eric, are you still there? Okay, Sandra, I guess we lost Eric.
I think you sorted out, but I know Jose Leon at St. Nick's had been trying to contact the Congresswoman's office after she had announced a mobile van. And St. Nick's has a number of sites that that they can use.
There is no mobile van at the moment, and the difficulty was actually getting the vaccines. There were no vaccines available. So I know that she's been working hard all day, and she must have secured a batch of them because she called me right away during this meeting. So, whatever we can get, we'll take whatever we can get at this point.
Well, in the meantime, let's try swinging 60s.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. Santa?
No, I want to tap into this because that's what we were talking with Barbara Williams for New York City Health and Hospital. And so it would be appropriate if we can properly coordinate and communicate it, both because we can vehicle this information properly. We have a Twitter account. We can do also with a proper dedicated email newsletter. But we can also involve Barbara with that because she was looking for some event, and this would be a good place to combine both, also for them being there in different locations. If we have Greenpoint, other part in Williamsburg, would be appropriate. So let's make this a joint effort. That's
an excellent idea. If it gets set up, ask Barbara to come and give out PPE at the site, because that's what she does. She give out PPE. So she can come and give out PPE at that site.
Yeah, but not
site they choose.
Yeah, but not only that, they start doing 50. They're going to start. They already started. I spoke with her yesterday. 50% test and tracing, and also 50. They're going to start doing more vaccine. Ideally, they're going to start doing 50% vaccine. Probably right now they're not at that capacity, but as vaccine they're coming to the picture and they're more available.
I don't know about the vaccine with Barbara. Right now we're talking about having her bring somebody there to give out PPE.
That's what she told us. That we're doing 50% test and tracing, and that was the goal, 50% vaccine. And they also have a van, so if we have a location beyond the PPE, probably they even add more resources.
Okay, Sandra, if we get a site opened up, we can ask her to come to the site and bring whatever she brings.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any more questions? Okay, thank you. There's no more elected officials to speak?
No one has indicated.
Okay, is there any new business? Is there any old business? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Thank you so much.
Stay safe.
Aye.
Peace
Thank
out,
you all.
homies.
It's a miracle. 9:25. Maria,
Before
you
10.
All right, I got kicked out 3 times. Now I need to go.